Big O Show. This is the 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 Big O Show.
For over 16 years, EJDconstruction.com has provided South Florida residents quality craftsmanship, accurate project management, and exceptional service. That's why EJDconstruction.com is an A-rated member of Angie's List and the Better Business Bureau. When you're looking for the right custom home builder for additions or home remodeling, please call my friend Eric at 305-433-4843. That's 305-433-4843 for EJDconstruction.com.
This is the Big O Show.
There's many ways to support our program, from subscribing and liking the show to visiting our terrific sponsors. Another way is using Cash App. If you would like to donate to the show and help us grow, download Cash App and search Cash Big O Show. That's Cash Big O Show. We appreciate your support as we continue to build the best sports show on the planet for South Florida sports fans. Support the Big O Show by using Cash App and donate to Cash Big O Show. Thank you for your incredibly loyal support.
This is the Big O Show.
There's no need to drive around South Florida wasting valuable time looking for a new or certified pre-owned Acura. Go to the #1 volume sales dealership in the Southeast United States. Craig Zinn Acura of Pembroke Pines. Purchase with pace and space in a dealership tailored to your needs. From home buying to providing that personal touch. Contact the 2020 Satisfaction Award winner Craig Zinn Acura of Pembroke Pines. 888-776-5123. That's 888-776-5123. Or visit them at 15601 Pines Boulevard in Pembroke Pines.
This is the Big O Show.
Sports fans love a place with great food, cold drinks, and TVs everywhere. That's why sports fans love Sports Grill and their 7 amazing locations. Check out the Bird Road location at 11481 Southwest 40th Street in the back corner of the West Bird Shopping Center. Sports Grill is also now offering some great employment opportunities. All kinds of positions are now available, from kitchen to hosting. Call for more information at 305-485-8845. From wraps to salads to amazingly delicious specialty dishes, Sports Grill is the home to the legendary special grilled wings. Since 1987, Sports Grill, good food, good drink, and good friends.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
When you need your warehouse looking good while staying efficient, there's only one place to find the finest racks in the business. Pallet Rack City in Hialeah. 305-424-8547. That's 305-424-8547. Pallet Rack City is the company you need when you want your warehouse sporting the finest racks in the business. After all, who doesn't love a great rack? Pallet Rack City. 305-424-8547. That's 305-424-8547.
There's no need to drive around South Florida wasting valuable time looking for a new or certified pre-owned Acura. Go to the #1 volume sales dealership in the Southeast United States. Craig Zinn Acura of Pembroke Pines. Purchase with pace and space in a dealership tailored to your needs. From home buying to providing that personal touch. Contact the 2020 Satisfaction Award winner Craig Zinn Acura of Pembroke Pines. 888-776-5123. That's 888-776-5123. Or visit them at 15601 Pines Boulevard in Pembroke Pines.
The viewpoint, statements, or beliefs expressed on the following program by the host, guests, or callers are not necessarily the opinions of FantasyXS.com, Media Group Inc. ownership, management, sponsors, or website. When it comes to South Florida sports teams, very few in the media have witnessed, lived, and covered it like the Big O. Let's start the program dedicated to your favorite South Florida teams with a passion that's unmatched. The Big O Radio Show is on. Here's the Big O.
Good morning. Welcome aboard. Time to rock and roll on a Wednesday, on a hump day. And it is August 4th, Wednesday. Hope you all are doing well out there. We start a little earlier on Wednesdays. We start at 9:30. We start to warm up the seat and get it going for a little inside the paint with Ira Winderman and Clay Ferraro. And, Heat actually added yesterday Markieff Morris. There's still a little cap space left. Could there be a trade with Tyler Hero, or is he staying? These are things that are still, maybe in the wings waiting. We don't know. I'd like to see personally Tyler get another shot and come back and see if he can kind of redeem himself and kind of prove to us what we saw 2 years ago is what we're going to see more often. It would be cool. But you never know with Riley, and he's gone in a veteran way. So we'll see if that's going to continue. So Ira, I'm sure, will have plenty of information. Clay, obviously, on top of it, also with the Heat. So there's going to be a lot of talk over that next hour between 10 and 11. We got a loaded show for you today. Alan Poupar is going to join us, and Alan Poupar now is part of the family. And so today was supposed to be the debut of Kyle Krabs. But, listen, I've been in this business for 31 years. I've seen a lot of strange things happen behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, in public, whatever. I've been a part of it all. I've experienced it all. Obviously, 31 years, you get to experience every kind of angle in this business. And so Kyle, when we made our agreement, he did not take into account that his company has a national responsibility to another company. So he could not. Now, we're going to have Kyle Krabs on, but we're not going to have him on every week and exclusively and all that kind of stuff. So, unfortunately, we will get Kyle on. I'll try to see if we get Kyle on next week instead. So Alan Poupar will become the Sports Grill Dolphins insider, which is great because Alan is with the team all the time. And so that's the good thing also. We get another guy part of our family that now you'll get Omar Kelly twice a week. You'll get Alan Poupar twice a week. And we're adding more. I probably will have a new announcement tomorrow with somebody else that we're going to add. And so remember, we're doing our Dolphins coverage at Sports Grill in Miami Lakes and in Miami and Miami Lakes. Bird Road, the Bird Road, location right off of Bird and the Turnpike. And then the Miami Lakes one, which is right off the Palmetto and 154th. And so we'll be going back and forth there, half a season in one and half a season in the other. We won't be bouncing back every week. We'll do either the first half at Bird and then the second half at Miami Lakes, or maybe the first half of Miami Lakes and the second half at Bird. I'm not sure. Whatever the owner wants to do is what we're going to do. But a lot of these guys will also be participants in our pre- and post-game coverage too. So we might have Omar chiming in. We might have Alan chiming in and something else that we've got planned. So actually a couple of things that we got planned. We just haven't, finished everything out, obviously. So it's nice to have Alan aboard. He will join us twice a week, and we'll have a little fun with him. They'll join us throughout the week, and then once the regular season starts, then they'll join us during the week, and then they'll join us also during the game day. So we'll get, reporters that are there at the games giving us any of the stuff that's going on with the team. So that's the good stuff. Listen, what we're trying to do is create the ultimate sports talk show in South Florida that's dedicated to the local teams, that has the people that actually cover these teams and have been around and have influence and have some connections and have some insight and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's what we're putting together, and we're doing a pretty good job overall. Remember, we're only in month 2 of this thing, right? So it won't be this. We won't complete our second month till the 15th. So we got another 11 days to complete 2 months restarting the daily podcast here. So we got a bunch of stuff. We will have Alan Poupart sometime in the 11 o'clock hour. There's not an exact time. I know I put out there 11:30, but he's going to chime in when he's ready to join us. And then we'll have him on, and we'll talk some Dolphins, and we'll get his thoughts in the first couple of days of practice and with pads too. Well, first day was yesterday. Today will be the second day. So we'll talk to him as he'll be watching practice when he's calling us today in the afternoon. So today in the morning when he calls us. So I'm looking forward to that. And then at 12:30, we'll get our soccer fix as Inter Miami visits Orlando City after a tie and a win. Could they be actually improving? Could they now go get a road win too on top of all of that, which would be pretty amazing? And Orlando's a pretty damn good team. And Miami desperately needs to string together some points. So they've gotten some points in the last 2 games. They just played on Saturday night. So now they're back in action tonight, Wednesday, 8 o'clock in Orlando. I'll be recording it. I think I'll probably be able to watch the second half live. I think I'll be home by then. My daughter's having a graduation today, so I'll be at the graduation, and then we'll have a little dinner, and then we can go home, and I'll catch the soccer match at that time. But hopefully, I'll be keeping up with it. I'm the guy that's on my phone. If I'm not looking at my crypto stocks or looking at social media, I'm probably keeping up with one of the sports teams doing something. So I'm the guy that's always on the phone checking something out, which, by the way, nice to see the market is actually making a nice move this morning. It started making a big-time move this morning. Just about an hour and a half ago, it just started to climb and climb and climb, and it continues to climb right now. In fact, I can give you an update because I have it refreshed here. Bitcoin is climbing back out of 38, and it's at 39.3. So it is headed right now to 40 at this point. We're waiting for that 42 range to be broken. And once that 42, 43 range is broken, then I think we spring to 50 at that point. So it's just a matter of time. And then obviously, if you have Ethereum, you're laughing all the way to the bank because it's already at 26.33. And while Bitcoin had a little bit of a setback the last couple of days, Ethereum didn't really drop back that much, actually. So it shows you how Ethereum is already stronger now than Bitcoin. I've been on the Ethereum thing for a while now. A lot of people are talking about how Ethereum is the better investment than Bitcoin. I've been saying that for a long time already, that Ethereum is the better investment than Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the long-term investment, but if you want short-term returns, bigger returns over the next couple of years, you're going to get more from Ethereum than you are from Bitcoin, because it's just the numbers tell you that's just the way it is. Ethereum has way more room to grow right now, and it's going to explode. Today, the London hard fork gets installed with the EPPI. That is now that's going to shave down the prices of transactions. It's going to burn Ethereum on each transaction. So then it becomes deflationary. And so now all of a sudden, and remember, there's less Ethereum right now in the exchanges. So you're going to burn Ethereum. There's less Ethereum available to buy. Guess what happens? Boom. So that's going to soar. So just a little crypto advice there for those of you that love the crypto market like I do, and it's moving. A lot of things are moving. Uniswap is moving. I like it. I like seeing some of these coins bounce back. A lot of the alternate coins are bouncing back too in a big time way. So got a loaded show. Got Inside the Paint from 10 to 11. We got Alan Pupar in the 11 o'clock hour. We got Franco Panizzo at 12:30. So the variety is there. You'll get your football, you'll get your basketball, and you'll get your football fix here on the program. We do it all. Okay, it's a beautiful thing. We got the chat board already going, and of course Steve Chapman again, number one at 8:53 in there. NorCal is in also. To Extreme, Gus 1388, Omar Lopez, Steven Gonzalez, JG Long, GP Trap, NorCal, Isais, love it. Gus says, Big O, it's great seeing Cam Wolf on NFL covering the Fins on a national side. Yes. Now, he just announced, I knew this already a while ago, that he was going to the NFL Network. And he will be covering the NFL, but also covering the Dolphins too. So that's cool. So he gets an opportunity to cover the league and then obviously cover what he knows in being around the Miami Dolphins. I don't think it'll be like ESPN does it. I think they'll move him around a little bit. I think he's going to end up traveling probably is what it sounds like, because he said that he's going to be covering the NFL too. So if you're going to be covering the NFL, then that means they're going to ship you around depending on the big stories. They right now, these companies they don't have the kind of money anymore to have a reporter in every city like that was the plan and try to get away with that. They can't do that anymore. The budgets aren't there. And obviously this whole COVID thing is just absolutely walloped all of us, right? And one way or another, we've all been affected by COVID one way or another, and our lives, our sports, everything has been affected by all of this. Our personal lives, you name it, man. Hell, personal relationships have gone down because of COVID. Some people didn't realize they didn't want to be around their so-called loved one all the time. And when they were quarantined with them, they kind of decided like, I don't want to make fun of divorce. I'm just saying that it's the irony behind it. You're married to this person, and then once you're stuck with them every day inside a house and you're with them all the time, you kind of realize, hey, maybe I don't love this person that much anymore, and I got to get the hell out. And that's the sad part. That even destroyed a lot of relationships. This thing's destroyed a lot, so it's tough. Get the damn vaccine is what you need to do. Get the vaccine so we can all get back to normal is what would be really, really nice. But anyway, got a bunch of things to talk about. The pads are on at Dolphins camp. Flores said something interesting. He said that they're making progress with X. And I thought that was interesting in his statement to the media yesterday. And we're going to ask Alan Pupar about that in the 11 o'clock hour. We'll get his thoughts on that. But at least for me, and as you all know, I thought for sure he's gone. Maybe he still is. Maybe he still is gone, and they're just buying time, and they're going to stretch this thing out. Because, as I told you, I thought unless the deal is like they knock it out of the park, they're not trading him now. They'll wait till the end of the year. It's an easier cap hit, and maybe they'll still do that. Maybe they'll appease him by giving him a little guarantees here this year, and then ship his ass out. Because that way, I was thinking about this. While you risk opening up Pandora's box, if you actually give him some guarantees this year and let him earn a little extra money, and then you keep him happy and he goes back out on the field, has a great year, you kind of dangle that carrot out there. And then if he goes and has a great year and stays healthy, of course, then at the end of the year, you trade his ass in the offseason. Because you go, okay, we're going to have more problems with this guy down the line. Let's move him now because everything is rosy. He got some extra money. He had a great year. The value is skyrocketing right now. Let's go get, a few picks, and let's move ahead from this. And who knows? Again, like I've told you before, the development of Noah is incredibly important in all of this, you know? So that's going to be the key here. If Noah by the end of the year looks really good, then they'll say, okay, yeah, we're in a good spot. Let's move him now and let's take advantage. So because you got to play some kind of a psychological game here. You know what I mean? Because I was thinking about this. If you give him some guarantees this year to appease him and shut him up and give him the money, then he goes out and has the year. You get to trade him. You move on. You get your picks, and you're out of it. And in a way, you kind of send a message that, hey, look, man, when we negotiate a deal, we negotiate the deal. If you're going to F with us, we're going to get you the hell out of here. You know, and that's maybe what they could tell the next agent that walks in. Well, you redid X. Yeah, and we traded his ass right after. We're not doing that again. And that's what they could say. So maybe that's the thing there too. Look, it's like I've told you guys over and over again. Are you guaranteed that you're not going to have any more issues with X? Right? You can't say that, right? With any kind of conviction. And so when I heard we're making some progress, I just wonder what kind of progress is that. And I'm going to be interested to see that if that contract's reworked. Is it for the length of the contract that's currently on there, or is it a 1-year bump here that they give him some money? And I'm going to be interested to see if that happens, because if that happens, then I think there's a chance that they're playing the game of, all right, let's give him a little money here. Let's keep him quiet. We're not going to get the value that we really want right now. So let's buy ourselves some time till next offseason. And we'll shut him up with some money, and then we'll move him in the offseason. I'm just thinking that way. I don't know if it's – see, the thing is he a long-term player with all the knee surgeries? That's – you got to kind of weigh that too. While he's a fantastic player, you have to think that you've had already several scopes. You may have some more down the line. At one point or another, the wheels are going to fall off. You can't keep having scopes and maintain, your health and play at the same level. So that's why, I'm just, and maybe, listen, ladies and gentlemen, I've been at this for a long time. And because I've been at this for a long time, I'm incredibly cynical. I've been lied to so much. I've been deceived. I've been misled. Whatever adjectives you want to phrase it. However, it's been portrayed one way and done the other. You know what I'm saying? And I've experienced all of that. And so that's why, to me, I always feel like there's chess being played here, not checkers. And any of you that play chess, you know what I'm talking about. If you're playing from move to move, you're never going to be a good chess player. The chess players that are really good are 4 and 5 moves ahead of your ass. Okay, they're thinking, well, if I go here, he's going to go there, and if I go there, he's going to go here, and you're thinking like that. That's what chess players do, and I think that's kind of what Greer's done since he took over. He's been playing chess. So when I heard that, I'm going to want to run that by, Alan Poupar. Hey, you think that maybe these guys are saying, you know what, we don't really want to rework this deal, but in order for us to get a better deal down the line, maybe we do a little tweak right here and shut him up, give him some money. He goes out there, he balls out for us, get to the playoffs. He has a terrific year, Pro Bowl year. Boom, we ship him off. We find the team. New Orleans wants him badly. Seattle wants him. Arizona wants him. Let them fight amongst them, and let's get the best deal. And now we'll know their draft position. All of those things. It's just, you think about it, you're just at a much better place trying to trade him at the end of the year than you are right now. The only risk you have is, obviously, he has an injury history. And so that's the only thing you risk from now to the end of the year. Okay. Now, there's a lot of you that don't even want to trade him anyway, right? So you don't care. You don't even want to trade him at the end of the year either. You know what I'm saying? To me, I'm open to trading him because I see the baggage, and I don't know if it's going to get worse. And I don't know if he's going to have another domestic issue, or he's going to have another knee issue. And to me, either way, the next knee injury may be the one that says it's over and you're not going to get anything for him. And then all of a sudden you were sitting there going, damn, man, we had a window to get out of this deal and move on. You know what I mean? And again, if you didn't listen to my Bernardrick McKinney segment yesterday, I suggest you go listen to it so you can understand, 1, the player, 2, the personnel decisions, and 3, the cap ramifications from all of it. And I think I explained it thoroughly there, where, some people have this misconception, oh, they didn't honor the contract and all that kind of stuff. When you're a front office, you have to do what's best for the team, short term and long term. And that's what you have to look at the X move. What's best short term? What's best long term? And how much am I rolling the dice on either short or long term? So what direction do I go in? And these are the things that they've got to weigh in when you're looking at this X situation. But I did find it interesting that the coach says, we're working at it, we're headed in the right direction. And well, I think we're headed in the right direction, I think is how I'm paraphrasing it. And I just found that to be a really interesting comment overall. By the way, Flores says on Jakeem Grant, he says, there's a lot of value having a returner who can flip the field and score. Dolphins, happy to have him. Last year was last year. Every day you have to prove it. Having a guy that can flip the field. What have I been telling you guys the entire time? So it's those kind of guys don't grow on trees. I'm sorry. What else do we have here? Because Flores right now is talking to the media. We're not at the point where we can air it, but eventually we'll get to that point where we're going to air the Flores press conference live, and then I'll do the reactions from it like I've done in the past. Some of you have requested that on the email and on the DMs and stuff like that. That I used to do the breakdowns of the press conferences, and we'll do that. I'll get back to doing that. I got to just set it up here, technically the way we need it in order to get it done. What else do we have here? Let's see. NorCal says, Otto is sold and streamed, Big O, every day since opening the doors. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. And then Gus says, Big O, it's great seeing Cam Wolf on the NFL Network covering the Fins. Yep. Good dude. What else do we have here on a beautiful hump day? Francisco says, Greer knows he has to keep X, especially with the secondary getting torched so far. Noah not living up to his draft stock. Francisco, if you are reading into camp 1 week in, no pads, and only 1 day of pads, I can't help you, bro. You know what I mean? Can't help you. So I don't read into camp to that extreme, to be honest with you. I give things a little more time to develop, and then we'll find out who's who and who's where. Mitchell says, sounds like a good, sound, logical plan. If we don't trade him and X has an injury just not to perform, could the Dolphins conceivably bench him and sue him for his bonus back if X doesn't perform? No, you can't do that. Once you give him the bonus, that's it. I think you can do it if he left camp and did not report and did not do his job. Then you can go after the bonus, because then he's actually committing a penalty or whatever, or breaking a rule inside the contract. But as long as he's reported, which he reported, because he knew he didn't want to deal with the fines, because they can't reverse the fines anymore. They used to be able to reverse the fines. Now they can't reverse the fines anymore. So it's a whole different ballgame now. Good morning, 2021 is a tune-up. 2022 is a title. That's exactly it, baby. That's exactly it. Marco Romero says, how's the linebacker depth looking? Marco, we wait till pads are on for a few weeks. We wait till they get to the preseason games and the practices against the Bears and the Falcons. Let's wait till all those things take place, And then we'll get a feel for the linebackers, and we'll get a feel for the D linemen. We'll get a feel for the O linemen. They just put on pads yesterday. That's why I told you guys on Monday when I was at Saturday's practice, that was nothing. That was calisthenics for 2 hours. I can't measure anything in football if you're not hitting. If there are no pads on, I don't count anything that went on Saturday. Yeah, Tua looks nice. He threw a couple of nice passes, but none of it means anything to me until we actually see real pads. So I can't measure linebackers until they're actually hitting. Can't measure linemen until they're actually hitting. I can't even get a feel for the passing game until they're actually hitting and blocking and rushing. That's when you start to get a feel for all of this. That's the problem. Do not overreact. Writers are there now, and they've got to break something down. They've got to tell you what's going on. But what's going on right now in the first week and a half is not enough substance for you to determine where the Dolphins are at this point in time. All right, Pallet Rack City Inside the Paint Show is coming up. And, of course, Clay Ferraro, Ira Winderman are getting ready. There they are. Boys, how are you doing this morning?
You know what? Still a little bit busy, but I think with so much Omer Yurtseven going on with the Heat right now, that I think we'll have time to talk about a few other players also. Look, once you have the Turkish terror, everything else is tertiary. So, as a matter of fact, I'm going to make Clay say that 5 times fast at the top of the show when we get into our Pallet Rack City Miami Heat show. But you know what, it's sort of everything you expect from the Miami Heat. Pat Riley doesn't stand pat. We can debate and will debate for the next hour about the moves, but this is a team that constantly is in motion, and God bless them, may not be the ultimate contender, but they try. This isn't the Marlins constantly selling their future forward.
All right, so are you sure we're going to see FTX on their jerseys and not Geritol? I'm just wondering. Just saying. I mean, the Lakers on the West Coast should be the Geritol representatives because they're even older. Yeah. And then the Heat also. I mean, any concerns, gentlemen, that we've got a lot of guys coming to the arena in walkers?
You know what? I'll defer to Clay on this so he can talk his way out of it.
No, not at all. Look, I think you can't deny that is the concern with this team, that at some point key players are going to break down. I mean, look, they're older than the Brooklyn Nets certainly are, and key players broke down for them last year in the playoffs. And so, I think there is always that risk. And yet I think what the Heat have done, and Ira already alluded to this, is they've made themselves a contender, and I think that you need everything to go together and everything to kind of fall in the right way like it did in 2020 in order to make a real run. But at least you put yourself in that spot again. And they certainly wouldn't have been in that spot had they kept the team. You know what? I forget that. That's how I felt until we saw the Turkish terror last night. Now I know that everything is tertiary, as Ira said.
Oh, look at you! You have the alliteration.
Although, gentlemen,
you stole my joke.
By the way, the screwed up part about the NBA is old usually wins.
That's true.
Well,
I mean, that's true.
Usually veterans are the ones that have success deep into the playoffs. That's the screwed up part. It's you got to get there in one piece. But if you can get there in one piece, usually the guys with experience are the ones that usually win, actually.
That was one of my questions for Ask Ira at sunsentinel.com today, and someone said, are the Heat trying to build the oldest team? And I'm saying, no, they can't catch the Lakers. That ship has sailed, And you know what? And if a team with LeBron James and Anthony Davis and Russell Westbrook is willing to play that game, then, guys, I think there is some merit to playing that game also, as long as you have enough depth. So I think as much as we're going to talk about today on our show about what the Heat have, there has to be more by the signing period on Friday. There is room for more. There is Pat Riley. There is Andy Ellisberg. There is hope. And if not, there's ample Geritol. Although, at this generation, do you even think they know what Geritol is? Are we doing old man radio here?
Yeah, no, we are doing old man radio because they have no idea the joke in Geritol. You're right. I am kind of dating myself.
All right, so let's put it this way. There should be ample blue pills, and we'll leave it that way instead, gentlemen.
Right. Exactly. That's what we'll do. All right, so tell the folks what you got coming up here over the next hour.
Well, we're going to talk a lot about that. And I think what's interesting about this team is two things. Number one, I felt like they went away from their identity a bit last year. And I think it's pretty clear that in this offseason, they have reestablished that identity as the toughest, meanest, nastiest group of guys in the NBA. And I think that's important. And number two, I think that they clearly surveyed the landscape of the Eastern Conference, and they pointed to the top two teams and said, what do we need to do to beat those two teams? And so I think, look, you can argue whether or not going all in on a group of older guys was the wise thing to do, especially long term. And yet I think given what's going on around the league, they did the best they could with what was available.
Right. There was no youth movement. There wasn't a young superstar that was ready to come over.
Exactly.
Nor did they have the ammo to acquire 100%. A young superstar, because it's going to take you 5 first-rounders or what. Look at what you had to pay for Drew Holiday.
Exactly.
He doesn't have anything like that. So if you're going to pay for something like Drew, or even better than Drew, like Bradley Beal, the offers are going to be way better than Miami could ever offer. So, you hit on it. They really went down the path, the only path they could probably do in order to improve and get back to their identity, which is a great move. So coming up next hour, it's Inside the Paint. Ira Winderman, Clay Ferraro, next. There's many ways to support our program, from subscribing and liking the show to visiting our terrific sponsors. Another way is using Cash App. If you would like to donate to the show and help us grow, download Cash App and search Cash Big O Show. That's Cash Big O Show. We appreciate your support as we continue to build the best sports show on the planet for South Florida sports fans. Support the Big O Show by using Cash App and donate to Cash Big O Show. Thank you for your incredibly loyal support.
Sports fans love a place with great food, cold drinks, and TVs everywhere. That's why sports fans love Sports Grill and their 7 amazing locations. Check out the Bird Road location at 11481 Southwest 40th Street in the back corner of the West Bird Shopping Center. Sports Grill is also now offering some great employment opportunities. All kinds of positions are now available, from kitchen to hosting. Call for more information at 305-485-8845. From wraps to salads to amazingly delicious specialty dishes, Sports Grill is the home to the legendary special grilled wings. Since 1987, Sports Grill, good food, good drink, and good friends. When you need your warehouse looking good while staying efficient, there's only one place to find the finest racks in the business. Pallet Rack City in Hialeah. 305-424-8547. That's 305-424-8547. Pallet Rack City is the company you need when you want your warehouse sporting the finest racks in the business. After all, who doesn't love a great rack? Pallet Rack City. 305-424-8547. That's 305-424-8547. Beliefs expressed on the following program by the host, guests, or callers are not necessarily the opinions of FantasyXS.com, Media Group Inc. ownership, management, sponsors, or website. Time for an hour of hardcore hoops with the Pallet Rack City Inside the Paint program with Ira Winderman and Clay Ferraro. There's only one place to find the finest racks in the business. Pallet Rack City in Hialeah. 305-424-8547. That's 305-424-8547. Let's get to the show basketball fans crave. Let's get inside the paint.
What's going on, guys? Inside the Paint here on the Big O Radio Show. Clay Ferraro here alongside Ira Winderman. And, Ira, we're going to talk pretty much 99.9% Heat news on the show today. But we do have some breaking news to tell you off the top. Kemba Walker has agreed to a buyout with the Oklahoma City Thunder, and he is going to sign with the New York Knicks. So, from like a basketball perspective, not a Heat perspective, but from a basketball perspective, I think that's kind of cool, because kind of the legend of Kemba Walker began at that Big East tournament. Obviously, basketball people knew him long before that, but that Big East tournament with UConn. So kind of returning to MSG, where it all started for him. And so we could talk throughout the show about the teams in the Eastern Conference that are going to contend, and if this puts the Knicks a little closer to being in that group. But
sure.
I think you would agree we have plenty of Heat stuff to talk about. And you said you've been a little busy the last couple of days, huh?
You know what? It just seems like every time you could walk away, boom, there's another Twitter bomb, there's another call from an agent, another text from an agent. And that's sort of what you expected, Clay. We knew after the Heat were swept 4-0 by the Milwaukee Bucks in the first round, they weren't good enough. We know when that happens, Pat Riley, Andy Ellisberg, Adam Simon, the Heat front office, they get into action. They did get into action. They had to get into action. They had to mix things up. And we knew what was lurking, and that was Kyle Lowry. And that was even before the trading deadline. And at the time of the trading deadline, when the Heat wouldn't give up Duncan Robinson or Tyler Hero, who remain on the roster right now, we're somewhat reluctant with Precious Achiuwa, who is going to Toronto or be part of that deal also. So when you look at that situation, you say to yourself, okay, there's going to be major change because there's going to be Kyle Lowry. And then they've continued to move from there, some out of necessity, some out of need. And like we said in the join before when we talked to Big O coming into our show, there has to be more also. Because as you pointed out right there, with Kemba Walker and the Knicks, the churn doesn't stop. You can't be settled. You always have to look for what could come next. We know Goran Dragic is going to be on the move again after this Kyle Lowry trade, which means some other team will have someone shake loose. So this is not the end. The free agency did not end for the Heat on Monday with Kyle Lowry. It did not end for the Heat Tuesday with Markieff Morris. This will be an ongoing process, at least 4 roster spots to fill out, some maneuvering available there also. So we're sort of not at the starting gate, but we're hardly at the finish line.
Yeah, so plenty of more work left to be done. And I think Pat Riley and Adam Simon and Andy Ellisberg would agree with that. And yet let's kind of break down what they've done to this point. And the number one thing that I kind of took away from this whole thing, Ira, was the Heat have gone back to their original identity from 2 years ago, building around Jimmy Butler, but also building a group of nasty, mean guys that when it gets down to crunch time, you want to have the toughest group of guys, if not the most talented. Because when you survey the landscape of the Eastern Conference, there was nothing that they could do to become the most talented. They were not going to become as talented as the Brooklyn Nets. Nobody is. They were not going to become as talented even as the Milwaukee Bucks. So I think you could make the case that pure talent-wise, the Atlanta Hawks would have been tough to catch from the Heat. Yet again, that's a debate.
I might disagree there, but okay.
But what I would say is that the Heat finally have that thing that they can lean on again. And I think in many ways last year they lost that. And you could argue there are plenty of reasons why. I think losing Jay Crowder was a big part of that. You had the reports last year that he and Jimmy Butler would kind of go at it in practice and that Jimmy kind of needed somebody to push back on him. You now have that with Kyle Lowry coming in, somebody who's not only a really good friend of his, but also somebody who isn't going to take any stuff and somebody who's known as a leader across the league. You bring in a PJ Tucker, somebody who is the ultimate tough guy around the league, and somebody who, as we saw in their playoff series against the Brooklyn Nets, nobody's going to hold down Kevin Durant for a long time. Nobody's going to stop him. But PJ Tucker at least made life difficult for him in many ways during that series. And they reached out. Hey, they even reached out to Bobby Portis. So it also said to me, they were looking at the Milwaukee Bucks and saying, all right, who's going to shake loose from there? Who would shake loose from the champs that we can kind of identify as guys who would fit within our identity, the toughness, the team play, all of that. So, and then going out and adding a Markieff Morris yesterday when you knew that they were going to have to build this toughness and this identity and add a 4. I just thought that on the whole, I thought they did a good job of reestablishing that identity.
Yeah, Clay, it's interesting. And the point you made there is you could make an argument in recent years that the Heat mantra of toughest, hardest working, best condition, and all that wasn't really the Heat team. They were a run and gun team. They become an offensive-minded team. So they moved away from that. I think it's going to be really interesting this year when I watch you do the sports on Local 10 and you go, the Heat won another gritty game tonight, 86-83. There's not a lot of offense on this team in an offensive league. To your point, when you look at the Nets, of course the Nets are better. But now you have a PJ Tucker to defend Kevin Durant, a Jimmy Butler to defend James Harden. You have a Kyle Lowry to defend Kyrie Irving. You have a chance. When you play the Bucks, you have, again, PJ Tucker to defend Giannis Antetokounmpo. You have Jimmy Butler and Chris Middleton. You have Kyle Lowry now and Drew Holiday. You at least have the matchups. This is going to be a team that's going to have to play, what does Eric Spoelstra say, sort of, in the sludge, in the mud, in the gutter. That's who they are. This is the Heat of Mourning and P.J. Brown. This is Riley's Knicks of Oakley and Mason and Starks and that kind of toughness. So I don't think it'll be easy on the eyes necessarily, but I do think it'll be easier in the win column.
And this is what I love too. It's Pat Riley's swan song, and he's doing it his way. He's not. You're right. I mean, this is an offensive league. The league has changed, and it's not what it was back in the mid '90s. And I feel like Pat Riley kind of looked at this, and by the way, it's also Jimmy Butler's way. But I feel like he kind of looked at this and he said, "All right, I've done things your way. I've done things the way of the new NBA. I've kind of gone along with the pace and space that Eric Spoelstra has, and I do still think there's going to be a big part of that. I do still think they're going to want to get stops and get out and run because, frankly, in the half-court offense, they're not going to be able to match a lot of those teams. But I love that, assuming this is it for Pat Riley, assuming this is the last core that he puts together, he's basically saying, yeah, I may not be able to do it your way and compete with those guys, but I'm going back to my way, the old school mid-90s Knicks, make things really tough, play in the mud. And so I think, and we love storylines in this business. And so what I like is that you're going to have that contrasting style with the Heat and the rest of the league. And I just love this idea, Ira. I love this idea. I know. I'm not going to go out and put any money on the Heat to win the championship, but just imagine if they find a way to win this whole thing. Could you imagine Pat Riley looking at the rest of the league and saying, I did things my way and went against you guys? I just think that's great.
Yeah, he might be able to say it, but I don't think he'll be able to say it. And I think we need to sort of add perspective. You pointed it out right there, Clay, at the top of the show. Not only is it about the Nets, not only is it about the Bucks, but you also have an Atlanta Hawks team. Today they re-signed John Collins. He got his bag of money, his $125 million. He gambled on himself and he won. Trae Young got his extension. The Hawks aren't going anywhere. And the questions I might have had about the Knicks, as you mentioned at the top of the show, Kemba Walker gives them that solidifying force. I think he needs to find his place again, but I think there is still one more chance for him also. So, Clay, let's look at the East. Let's look at the Nets on top. Let's look when we talked about the Bucks. Let's look at the Knicks and the Hawks we talked about. Clay, you and I haven't even talked about the Philadelphia 76ers yet. And whether it's Ben Simmons coming back or whether it's them adding someone else, again, that's another team right there. I think the Heat could put themselves in the mix. I'm not sure you can put the Heat top three, which means you're still possibly looking at one and done in the playoffs unless it all falls into place.
What is Philly doing? What are they even? Somebody said this the other day, and it's right. I think getting the 1 seed could have been the worst thing that happened to them. Mm-hmm. I mean, how can you go through the playoffs like they did and see that Ben Simmons is in many ways unplayable, at least on one end of the floor at the end of ball games, and then you're asking teams for 5 first-round picks for him? Like, with his contract, they should be giving teams 4 to 5 first-round picks.
Except for this fact, they still have Joel Embiid, who is arguably, with Nikola Jokic, the best big man in the league. They still have Tobias Harris, who is underrated because he doesn't play the beautiful game, but he's very efficient. Mm-hmm. So they either will have Ben Simmons, or more to the point, they'll have something for Ben Simmons. Now, it might not be the haul of Damian Lillard. It might be a CJ McCollum, but they will have another player in place there. They were good last year. They have good depth. And Seth Curry, that trade was a steal for Josh Richardson when they made that last year. So what I'm saying is there's still quality teams with the Heat. The goal, Clay, and I think you'd agree, is you want at least home court in the first round. So when you look at the East, if you're talking about the Nets and you're talking about the Bucks and you're talking about the Hawks and you're talking about the Knicks and you're talking about the 76ers, those 5 teams I just mentioned, are you talking about another number 6 finish? And again, Clay, they're coming back with the play-in tournament this year. If you don't finish top 6, you can be 1 and done or 2 and done with that pre-playoff round also. So the Heat, I still think, are on the cusp, maybe of something special, like you mentioned, and Riley getting another parade, or the cusp of seeing how they do against the Bulls in the play-in round.
It doesn't bother the whole seeding thing and getting home court advantage doesn't bother me. It's all right. Which teams are going to be hot? Which teams are going to be healthy at the end of the year? And to the ultimate point, I think we can all agree. We can debate how close the Heat are to being where they need to be, and all that. There are 2 teams, and then there's everybody else in the Eastern Conference. I feel like, yeah, you can say what you want about Philly. We clearly disagree on where they're heading. Atlanta, I think, happens to be a bit better, and I also feel like the fits there are great. Forget about all of that. Can the Heat compete with those top 2 teams? Have they built a squad they can go out and potentially give those two teams a run. And I think they did. And so, O wants to talk about how old this team is. And to me, that is the number one concern. And sure. I fully understand that. And I also fully understand that you're locked into this core for the next 3+ years. And so, obviously there are mechanisms to get out if you want to, but hey, try to trade away a 37-year-old Kyle Lowry on a $30 million contract.
You know what, Clay, I'm going to interrupt you there, and I'm going to disagree. And I think there's been one abject lesson for the NBA in the last 3 years. Any contract is tradable. John Wall's untradeable contract, traded. Russell Westbrook.
What did they trade John Wall? What did they have to attach to it?
They had to attach, they took Russell Westbrook back. That's what they had to attach to it. Another bad contract. But Chris Paul, when it wasn't a great contract, when he was a declining player, when he wasn't going anywhere, consistently got moved also from Houston and then from Oklahoma City. So I think the old staple of, once you're locked into this roster, you're locked in, I just don't think that's the case. Now, you might have to take someone else's concern. You might have to add a sweetener. But I don't think you're ever fully locked into a roster because you know what? We all thought the Lakers were locked into a roster. We thought there wasn't another escape hatch, beyond Anthony Davis and LeBron James, but there was. Now, you can argue the remake and remix and what they got and what they didn't, but they were able to change. So I think you can. The one thing I'll say about the Heat, and we're talking about an older team, is this. Age is just chronological. And these are, these are Rodley players. They are best conditioned. Kyle Lowry, has changed his body in recent years. PJ Tucker never shows up out of shape. He'll be fine also with the Heat situation. Markieff Morris has that doggedness. I'm worried about the lack of athleticism. I think you can push through age. I think you can eat right. I think you can sleep right. I think you can condition right. But I don't think you could ever regain that explosion. And Clay, that's my concern, is that when it comes to needing an athletic me against you, mano-y-mano type of score, I don't know if they have that kind of player. I mean, Jimmy Butler still is somewhat deferential. Kyle Lowry can do it, but I'm not so sure he's going to do it as a consistent basis like he has previously. Markieff Morris thinks he can do it. Tyler Hero is streaky. That's my concern also. We can talk age, but I'm going to talk age in terms of athleticism.
All right, I'm checking some of these comments right here, and we're going to get out of this segment really quickly, but some good questions here. By the way, Jonathan, John, Premier, Jay, Arcarillo, Ray, Matthew, Vernon, Tony, thanks, guys, for hanging out with us. We're going to get some of your questions coming up next, and one of these that I really want to tackle, Victor Oladipo, because you're talking about the fact that the athleticism isn't there with this group. Mm-hmm. And clearly, when healthy, he's somebody who would add that. And I also think that he's lurking there because apparently he was chatting with the Bucks a bit last night, but teams aren't breaking the bank to sign him. So we're going to get into the Victor Oladipo situation. We're going to look at some of the ways that they could make this team even better moving forward. And we're going to laugh at each other for nobody else knowing how to use the word Geritol. That's coming up next on Inside the Paint right here on the Big O Radio Show.
Reach out to Ira and Clay. Drop them an email at insidethepaint@yahoo.com. Chime in on the YouTube chat board. You're listening to the Pallet Rack City Inside the Paint Show.
There's no need to drive around South Florida wasting valuable time looking for a new or certified pre-owned Acura. Go to the #1 volume sales dealership in the Southeast United States. Craig Zinn Acura of Pembroke Pines. Purchase with pace and space in a dealership tailored to your needs. From home buying to providing that personal touch. Contact the 2020 Satisfaction Award winner Craig Zinn Acura of Pembroke Pines. 888-776-5123. That's 888-776-5123. Or visit them at 15601 Pines Boulevard in Pembroke Pines. If you're a Miami sports fan, then there's only one store to go to, and that's Caneswear at Miami Fanwear in Davie. They're your one-stop shop for all your Inter Miami CF, Canes, Dolphins, Panthers, and Marlins merchandise. They have hats, t-shirts, game day jerseys, and so much more. Located at 2511 South University Drive in Davie, and open 24/7 online at caneswear.com or intermiamiwear.com. Call them at 954-835-5597. Caneswear, the spot where Inter Miami and all Miami sports fans shop.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show. is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
When you need your warehouse looking good while staying efficient, there's only one place to find the finest racks in the business. Pallet Rack City in Hialeah. 305-424-8547. That's 305-424-8547. Pallet Rack City is the company you need when you want your warehouse sporting the finest racks in the business. After all, who doesn't love a great rack? Pallet Rack City. 305-424-8547. That's 305-424-8547. Welcome back to the Pallet Rack City Inside the Paint program with Ira Winderman and Clay Ferraro. Let's get back to the guys that just updated their email from Prodigy to AOL. Here's Ira and Clay.
I think we may need to give people our AOL email addresses just so they can that's not a lie. They're not just making fun of us. We actually do have.
But we
AOL
can tell them also that we do have an insidethepaint@yahoo.com email for our listeners also. That's all one word together. Inside the Paint, the name of our show at yahoo.com. So if you've more modernized, maybe not yet reached the Gmail level, you can go over to yahoo.com and our mailbox and reach us there as well.
Also, feel free to drop some chats right here. You guys have been great with some of these, and I'll be completely honest because I'm just getting used to StreamYard here. I didn't even know these existed. This is really cool. So, C. Dola, Philly will fall apart. Jonathan, I haven't seen the Bulls in a play-in round. Bulls right now, I think have surpassed the Knicks and will be top 5. You know what? I love that core that the Bulls have put together.
That's interesting, Clay, because I think they have a lot of names, a lot of pieces that you could put together. Obviously, they started with the Vucevic deal, but that DeRozan contract and what they gave him. Remember, Clay, how people thought the Heat were going to make a play at their mid-level at $10 million. Instead, you're talking about a $20 million plus contract for DeMar DeRozan. Look, they have a lot of pieces now. Zach Collins, interesting player. DeMar DeRozan, unique kind of player. So when you look at what they've done with their additions, I mean, yes, Lonzo Ball, again, a unique player, but a winning player, a championship player, we don't know. To me, that's the kind of team that does get a playoff berth. I agree. I was just throwing that up as a hypothetical with them in the play-in because only 6 teams get in. I'm still not so sure you can put Chicago ahead of, I think you'd agree, you couldn't put them ahead of the Nets. You couldn't put them ahead of the Bucks. Probably not putting them ahead of the Heat, the 76ers, or the Hawks maybe. So you're still talking about after all that money spent and what they did with redoing their roster. I like Patrick Williams a lot also. They're probably still playing for 6, 7, 8 and play-in. I think there's a lot of teams that have spent a lot of money that would like to get rid of the play-in and know at worst they finish 7th or 8th and at least get a best-of-7 playoff series.
Mark Stein had an article yesterday about how the Eastern Conference in many ways has potentially surpassed, when you're talking about top 8, the Western Conference, and that you're no longer making fun of them and calling them the least. We even mentioned Charlotte. I like what they've put together. Okay. I think that's a young group of guys. And I'm not saying that they're going to even be top 6, top 7, but I do think that it's a group of guys that's going to get better. So all of that said, Ira, you mentioned off the top here, there are still ways that the Heat can get better. One of the names that's still out there is Victor Oladipo. What are you hearing on Victor Oladipo, and what are you seeing? What are you hearing? What are some of those potential options, even outside of Depot, ways that this roster could improve between now and tip-off?
Yeah, Clay, I think that's a really good name you bring up in Victor Oladipo because he's still there. And when I look at this Heat roster, and I think that's why it's a good point of reference from you, I look at this Heat roster and I say to myself this. Where is that, like we mentioned in the previous segment, the dynamic athleticism? Jimmy Butler will work his way to the foul line. Kyle Lowry will bump and bang his way and either step back for the 3 or try to draw contact. Duncan Robinson has to be set up by someone else for a basket. Bam Adebayo, and Clay, we're even seeing this in the Olympics, is still not a go-to player. Even with his salary, he's a complimentary player. If the
Offensively, yes.
Yes, then defensively does it all. If the Heat can make it work to bring back Victor Oladipo and he just contributes starting in January or February, then like you and I were talking during the crosstalk with Big O, this is a different Heat team in the playoffs. If Victor Oladipo, remember Victor Oladipo that last couple of weeks with the Heat before he went out with his injury?
Yes.
He was at least, Clay, I think you would agree, intriguing. If the Heat can get back intriguing Victor Oladipo, you know what? That changes my view significantly. And how crazy is that? A player coming off a major surgery on his quadriceps, probably not likely to step on an NBA court with game action January, February, I still think could be a big piece for the Heat. But you know what? Ego's a big thing. And having to take a minimal nominal contract is a tough decision for a guy like Victor Oladipo, who was expecting a heck of a lot more in free agency.
Yeah, and I don't think I'm not sitting here saying that he would take a minimum level contract with the Heat if he would have offers in excess of that elsewhere. But you're going to take the best thing that's available to you. I mean, the one thing that when you're a kid and you're getting into this and you're like, oh, well, why wouldn't this guy take a hometown discount to stay with my team, the team I love? Then you grow up and you get married and you have kids and you're like, okay, now I understand. Like, you got to look out for yourself. And yet, I think all things being equal, Victor Oladipo has made it very clear that he wants to be here. And so, like, if he's choosing a similar salary from Miami versus teams around the league, and he can come and make his name here and potentially, like, I think that's the sort of thing that could sway it in the Heat's favor. So, the possibility with him is you could have an end-of-game lineup. And again, we're talking about everything coming together. A defensive lineup with Kyle Lowry, Victor Oladipo, Jimmy Butler, one of P.J. Tucker and Markieff Morris, probably Tucker down the stretch, and Bam Adebayo. I mean, that's how are you scoring on that team? And unless you have Kevin Durant.
And I agree with that, Clay, except, and again, the ego is part of the equation. You follow Victor Oladipo on social media. He still holds himself in very high esteem, shall we say, for who he is. So can a Victor Oladipo accept the fact that he's going to be the number 4 on the Miami Heat? In other words, this is, I think we all agree, Jimmy Butler's team. With what they're paying Kyle Lowry right now and all they moved to get him in free agency, he's probably their number 2 now. Bam Adebayo, huge extension, $160 million plus starting this season. He is at worst the number 3. So it's really, that to me is the hard part. There are guys who subjugate their games, guys like Markieff Morris and P.J. Tucker, who say, hey, we're complimentary players. We want to be that. We're willing. I don't know if I've seen that from Victor Oladipo in Indiana. I don't know if I saw it briefly in his tenure with Houston. And I'm not so sure he didn't come in expecting more here. So, Clay, there's 2 parts to that equation. Number 1, can he accept being that kind of player? And can the Heat talk him into sort of restarting his career from the bottom and building back up? It's a hard thing, but I agree. I think of all the still out there guys for the Heat, or the possibilities, I think even looking around the league, that might be as good as any external name. I agree with you, Clay.
Ray, lunch pail Heat team right now, they'll grind every game. Not sure how far we can go with that. And I think that this gets back to your comment a few minutes ago, Ira, about, where does this team finish as far as seeding in the Eastern Conference? The challenge for this team, especially with the age, is how are you going to manage the minutes as the season goes on? And yes, it's a tough grinding team. And, when you're getting a little tired as the season goes on, you're playing against a bunch of young guys in their 20s and they're able to run and jump over you. It can be hard, I think, as the regular season goes on. So that's where I'm less concerned about where they finish in seeding in the playoff race as I am getting through the regular season, getting to the playoffs, because then when you have more time in between games. So to your point, Ray, yes, that's how this team is going to win games. They're going to grind it out. That is a style that is more conducive to winning in the playoffs because you've got more time in between games. Now, the game has still changed to where you do see these teams like Phoenix that are high flying and put a lot of points on the board going far in the playoffs. Milwaukee, man, I mean, yeah, they can grind with you, but I mean, Giannis just threw down 51 points in a closeout game. So, yes, the game has changed. But, Ray, I think you're right. That's how they're going to win games. And that's where I keep falling back on this. Don't get as caught up in how the hot dog is made with this team throughout the regular season. It's what's it going to taste like when you get to the point where it really matters, when you get to the seventh inning.
But you know what, Clay, as they're grinding in the pig lips and the shoulders and all that and the rest and trying to come up with something palatable, you know what's really interesting? we've now gone just about half of our show and not mentioned a certain name that I think is very germane to this conversation and important, and that's Tyler Hero. Because if this team does need dynamic scoring, if this team does need youthful athleticism, if this team does need one guy who's not one of the old guys to come off the bench with that 12-point spurt when all seems lost and revitalize, it's Boy Wonder. And how interesting an offseason has this been that this started as the offseason of Tyler Hero? Would the Heat be willing to trade Tyler Hero? Is he going to be part of a package? Will he be back with the team? Now, when you look at this roster, we put these names together, and I think we're up to 11 right now. I think it really stands out. Number one, he's still here. Number two, he remains their most potent trade chip right now. Not a lot else tradable when you sign players. They can't go anywhere for about 3 months anyway, unless they're included in sign and trade. So Tyler Hero is really important because you can throw out your old guys. I don't mean that condescendingly, but I'm saying let's say you throw out, Markieff Morris and Bam Adebayo and Lowry and Duncan Robinson, who's not old, and Jimmy Butler. You could still have vitality off the bench, perhaps with a Tyler Hero, maybe with a KZ Okpala. I'm not as sold. Maybe some others are. But I think Tyler Hero, for a guy who might not have had a place, once they let Kendrick Nunn walk, once they had to trade Goran Dragic, he moved up the hierarchy organically anyway, but I think he's an important name for the Heat. So the question I would posit back to you, Clay, is this. Is he more important as a roster player, or is he more important as you're looking to round out this roster as the last remaining potent and viable trade chip?
I would say as a roster player at this point, for this reason, you in many ways have taken away your ability to trade for a player with a big salary. And, because you're going to be hard capped and you're not going to have the ability, when they had Goran Dragic's contract, Andre Iguodala's contract to attach to a type. So basically the player that you would be, and I'm not Andy Ellisberg, but I'm trying to play him on TV. But the player that you would be having to trade for would have to have a similar contract to Tyler Hero. So how many star-level players would be available on a rookie contract?
I'm going to disagree with you that. I'm going to go over a little salary cap lesson here that took me years to learn.
This is what we do.
What's interesting is they decided not to pick up the team option on Andre Iguodala, but they maintained his bird rights. They actually can throw him in a trade as a salary. It'll be hard because of where they are against the hard cap and the cap. But in theory, they could take Tyler Hero's $4 million contract. And let's say they wanted to get an $8 million player, for example, someone a little more. This is the crazy NBA. They can go back to him and say, hey, Andre, would you mind if for a few minutes we give you a bag of $4 million, trade you to Team X, but then you get to go home with your bag of money because they're going to cut you? I mean, this is the you go back in the NBA, Keith Van Horn, I think got traded twice after he was out of the league and asked to take money just to help facilitate a trade. So the Heat still have those. They can do a sign and trade with Victor Oladipo. They can do a sign and trade with Andre Iguodala. God bless him. They could do a sign and trade with Udonis Haslem, who for all he stands for, I think if anyone put a bag of money in front of Udonis Haslem and said, come on, UD, won't you take this $4 million take a hit for the team? I think UD might and take it back with him to Southwest Ranches. So there are also possibilities. But to your greater point, Clay, I think it's really interesting what you say. Is there a better option right now for the Tyler Hero role for the Heat than Tyler Hero?
And that's when you pose the question, what I'm looking at. And yeah, especially, you can combine all of those contracts and with the cap hold and with the hard. So I do like that you gave us that lesson. I'm going to hit some of these chats. There's some good questions here. Jonathan, the Heat will be a good team. My fears is the lack of offense scares me. And yes, but the lack of offense and having an explosive offensive playmaker and age are a problem. I'll say this in ways that I think you can improve that. Watch some of the videos of Kyle Lowry when he's working with both Pascal Siakam and Serge Ibaka. And Serge Ibaka even went on Twitter and said, oh, Bam's about to have a career year because my guy Kyle is going to get him the ball.
Let the good times roll, quite literally,
Yes. So, pick and roll. So, to your point about Bam in the Olympics, and I want to talk about this more in the last segment, Bam has the opportunity now to be a true big man. because
Correct.
you now have a facilitator, you can ask Bam to do more of the things that a true big man can do, kind of play that Serge Ibaka role offensively in some ways. And I think you're hoping his ceiling is higher. But I think he can go back to focusing on that. Because of all the things that Pat Riley said in the State of the Heat address after the season ended, the one that stood out the most to me was him basically calling out Spo for asking Bam Adebayo to do too much, especially offensively. This allows him to go back to being a big man.
Yes.
Less of that.
That's a great point. That playmaking Bam was good enough for what they had. But playmaking Bam doesn't have to be playmaking Bam anymore.
Yes.
Because now Kyle Lowry knows how to play make. Goran Dragic was sort of more in a limited role there, so I agree with that also. I also think Kyle Lowry gives them an end-game option. Remember that one game the Heat won when Bam hit the fadeaway shot against the Nets? It was a game when the Nets went out. They lost Durant, I think, early with an injury.
Yep.
And everyone said, finally, Bam's hitting the game winner. He's stepping forward and doing that. I still think that's going to be the occasional thing. The difference with this Heat roster, Clay, as we talked about how the Heat revamped themselves, is it pretty much was Jimmy Butler or bust at the end of games. Draw a foul, get to the basket, hit a jumper, the ball in his hands. Goran Dragic was deferential. Duncan Robinson sometimes wasn't on the court because of his defense. Now you can have two guys there. Now you can have two guys who say, have, like I told Orlando yesterday, could do the Eddie House big whatever you want to call them dance at the end of a game after they hit a shot like that because they have the quote-unquote sack and willingness to do that. You need more than one. That's what we've seen. You need Anthony Davis and LeBron James. You need Durant and you need Harden. You need Giannis, and more importantly, you need Middleton and you need Holiday. The Heat have that now. They have two guys they could throw out on the court at the end of the game to get it done. So a little less pressure in game for Bam Adebayo, but during the game, I think he can examine and explore more of his game, and I think Kyle Lowry will make that easier for him. I agree.
Danny says, who did the Heat lose that provided that much more offense than the people that we're getting this year? And I would say they didn't, but I also think the greater point is that they didn't have enough offense last year either.
Yes, that it was a struggle. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And look, I mean, if you had healthy Goran Dragic from the bubble, then he was the guy during that playoff run. How many clutch shots did he hit the Milwaukee series, the Boston series, getting into the paint in the Indiana series? I mean, so, but you didn't have that last year. And
well,
so
you know what? There's one name we didn't mention also, and it's funny because there's so much going on that there's so much we skip over. We haven't mentioned the name Kendrick Nunn to this point. And you know what?
And I'm glad you said that. Tony asked about that as well. He says, what happened with him? So, Ira, give some of your intel on that. How did that go down?
Well, first of all, my point I was going to make on Kendrick is he did score. People never gave him quite the credit. So when you're saying, what did the Heat lose? They lost Goran Dragic, but they also lost Kendrick Nunn, who scores more than P.J. Tucker, who scores more than Markieff Morris. So you did lose a component there. I've always felt the Heat relationship with Kendrick Nunn, obviously he wasn't the one, that was the problem, is that they always viewed him as good enough, but they never truly valued him. There's two factors in play, Clay. Number one, they knew after 2 years he would become a free agent. They could lose him. They'd have to spend. They weighed that against Tyler Hero, who's still under a rookie scale. This season, Tyler Hero, $4 million. They didn't know that the market would be this low for Kendrick Nunn. So they had to cover themselves by prioritizing. You know this, Clay. You've done some debates with Will Manso on Local 10 on this also. The Kendrick Nunn, Tyler Hero. Is Tyler getting too much? Are the Heat undervaluing Kendrick Nunn? I think the Heat did undervalue him because I think the Heat prioritized. I think you'd agree with this, Clay. Wouldn't you agree that Tyler Hero has a greater upside than Kendrick Nunn?
Sure. I also think there's some reasons why you can look at last year why Tyler took a step back, and you would hope that and I think a lot of it goes back to, frankly, what Riley said Spo did with Bam. I think the point hero experiment, you saw some flashes, but then ultimately it just didn't work. And so I think you have to ask Tyler to go back to being who he was.
Yes.
And just be that
and changes that equation. And the other point about
Yes.
Kendrick Nunn is I don't think he's going to play a lot for the Lakers. I think he really had to take a deal of last resort. One, Russell Westbrook's the starting point guard. Two, people are talking about, they might lose Dennis Schroeder. What are they going to do? Well, LeBron dominates the ball anyway. They have plenty of ball dominators. If Carmelo Anthony plays, he's going to dominate the ball. They might prefer the shooting of Malik Monk or Wayne Ellington now that they added him. So I think Kendrick Nunn, one, was the right player in the right place when he signed with the Heat. but then sort of, and circumstance happens, became the wrong player in the wrong places. Look, nothing wrong with $10 million. He has an option to get out if he has a good first season with the Lakers, but it just didn't fall into place with him. But you know what? When we grade the Heat, Clay, at the end of free agency and the end of the season, not a lot of that grade is going to be on whether they did right or wrong with Kendrick Nunn. There's a lot more important factors there.
Yeah, and to your point about undervaluing him, maybe, and yet relative to the offers that he apparently was getting, maybe not. You know, and he's somebody who, yes, he's instant offense, and yet in many ways, I think they viewed him, like you said, as good enough, but also replaceable. And I think if your identity is going to be such that you're going to be this tough team, so they're going to be moving that direction. We're going to move to a break. Coming up after this, I want to get into more of this Bam Adebayo conversation because I feel like in many ways, you know, we're kind of putting all this in the context of Bam being kind of who he was and who maybe we've seen at the Olympics. What is the next step? What does he have to do in order to turn this team from very good to great? We're going to have that and a lot more coming up on Inside the Paint here on Big O Radio Show.
You're listening to the Pallet Rack City Inside the Paint Show. Pallet Rack City in Hialeah is the company you need when you want your warehouse sporting the finest racks in the business. After all, who doesn't love a good rack? Pallet Rack City. Sports fans love a place with great food, cold drinks, and TVs everywhere. That's why sports fans love Sports Grill and their 7 amazing locations. Check out the Bird Road location at 11481 Southwest 40th Street in the back corner of the West Bird Shopping Center. Sports Grill is also now offering some great employment opportunities. All kinds of positions are now available from kitchen to hosting. Call for more information at 305-485-8845. From wraps to salads to amazingly delicious specialty dishes, Sports Grill is the home to the legendary special grilled wings. Since 1987, Sports Grill, good food, good drink, and good friends.
This is the Big O Show. 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 This is the Big O Show.
There's no need to drive around South Florida wasting valuable time looking for a new or certified pre-owned Acura. Go to the #1 volume sales dealership in the Southeast United States. Craig Zinn Acura of Pembroke Pines. Purchase with pace and space in a dealership tailored to your needs. From home buying to providing that personal touch. Contact the 2020 Satisfaction Award winner Craig Zinn Acura of Pembroke Pines. 888-776-5123. That's 888-776-5123. Or visit them at 15601 Pines Boulevard in Pembroke Pines.
When you need your warehouse looking good while staying efficient, there's only one place to find the finest racks in the business. Pallet Rack City in Hialeah. 305-424-8547. That's 305-424-8547. Pallet Rack City is the company you need when you want your warehouse sporting the finest racks in the business. After all, who doesn't love a great rack? Pallet Rack City. 305-424-8547. That's 305-424-8547. If it's hardcore hoops you desire, make sure you subscribe to the Big O Radio Show and never miss an episode of Inside the Paint. Let's get back to the Pallet Rack City Inside the Paint Show with Ira Winderman and Clay Ferraro.
Welcome back to Inside the Paint here on the Big O Radio Show. And thanks to all of you guys that have been dropping some comments in the chat here. This is fun. I like kind of getting to this and getting you guys' opinions and answering some of the questions there. And you've really given us some good ideas for the direction of the show. Okay, so before the break, we talked about Bam Adebayo a little bit.
Sure.
And, the thing that stood out to me after the season was Pat Riley basically saying that we got to figure out a way to not ask him to do so much. And I think this does that. Adding a Kyle Lowry does that. And now you're allowed to put Bam in position to be a true big man. Ira, the thing that kind of bothered me a bit with some of the Bam criticism is you can't ask him to be Giannis on one end of the floor and Nikola Jokic on the other. And I think there were some times last year when, especially when Jimmy Butler was out, you asked him to put too much on his plate. And I think Bam is a great player. And I think that, as he says, he's one of one. I think there's an even higher ceiling. But I also think you have to be fair to the player and put him in positions to succeed. Now, you add a Kyle Lowry who, among point guards in the league who are able to get guys the ball in comfortable spots on the pick and roll, you're not going to find 2 or 3 guys better than him. So what does Kyle Lowry do for Bam Adebayo's game to unlock it and potentially turn him into the big man that the Heat need him to be offensively?
Yeah, I don't want to overstate that because I don't know if he's ever going to be an offensive powerhouse. I don't know if he has that game. I don't know if he's not more of a hustle player anyway. And you know what? I don't know if he's a great player or a really good player. And Clay, the reason I say this is I don't know if he's a perennial all-star. He's a guy who's on the cusp of all-stardom in the NBA. So I think when you look at the situation with Bam Adebayo is you just want to see continued growth. We know as a defender he is unique, but maybe is he too unique? So many times you'll see them play that 1-5 point guard center pick and roll. He's out guarding on the side, on the wing with the point guard, and the middle's open, and the Heat don't have a lot of deterrence. Maybe you need to change the system a little bit more to let him be in the paint and be more of a deterrence. Offensively, obviously, he's a pick and roll player, and he's best on the pick and roll when someone can get him on the move. Kyle Lowry can do that. He's had some good moments also playing with Duncan Robinson in the pick and roll there also, and setting up Duncan, spotting up there also. So you have those 2 options. But I think when you look at Bam, until the shot comes around, and remember how proud he was of his midi last year. He was hitting that mid-range shot, and he was feeling good about himself. So you have that as well. I think Bam, until he extends his shot, you mentioned Jokic, and we know he spaces the floor a little bit more. I think he's still going to be a little bit limited dimensionally as an offensive player. This is an outside shooting league. I think you can be a very good center without an outside shot, but I don't think you can be a great center in today's NBA, including even a Rudy Gobert and a game changer. Remember, he was pulled late in playoff games also, unless you have that outside shot as well.
Man of 1,005 Hold says Bam will need a post-up game and to shoot threes. He says 5 attempts per game. Maybe not as many as 5, but I think to your point, he agrees. And he can. Yes, he can. And I think that's part of the game. But let's go back to the mid-range. I mean, I'm sitting here watching Kyle Lowry videos, and the number of times that he was able to get Pascal Siakam, Serge Ibaka, and even you go back before that, Marc Gasol. I mean, guys, wide open shots, wide open mid-range shots.
From the elbow, yeah.
Here's the problem. When the playoffs hit, Bam couldn't make those in that Bucks series, and then it got in his head, and he wouldn't even take them. So what does Bam need to do? I agree. He needs to extend that shot. He needs to spend the offseason, hit the corner threes, right? Like the things that Chris Bosh turned out to be such a – I don't think anybody anticipated him taking that lead. So work on those, but be more consistent and develop more confidence with those mid-range shots because – with Kyle Lowry, those are going to be there in spades.
That's a great name, Clay, that you brought up in Chris Bosh. Because if he can emulate that career arc with, honestly, a defensive game far superior to what Chris Bosh presented, even though Chris Bosh also guarded 1 through 5, then I think he's more complete. Hey, it might not be a bad idea to bring Chris Bosh into camp or some private practices.
100%.
You know how we talk for years how you want players to go to Hakeem Olajuwon's big man camp to work for their post moves? I think that's a great point. I think if you can get Bam Adebayo to Chris Bosh's big man camp, that's the role that would fit so well with this roster, what Chris Bosh did. And remember, it took Chris Bosh probably 2 or 3 years as a featured player to take his game outside to when he could make a difference. So I think that's a really good career arc. And again, please do not forget about how young Bam Adebayo is.
Yes.
There is still plenty of growth time there.
So you mentioned Chris Bosh, and you know, sometimes crazy things happen that lead you down that path. I mean, it was when he got hurt during that playoff run, and they basically said, all right, well, you can't do anything. Just go out there and shoot threes while you're trying to get better. And then he comes back, and once it was the Pacers series, when all of a sudden, man, he's hitting those three. And so it's like, those are the types of things that are going to set him apart. And we know that Bam has worked with Chris Bosh in the past. You know that there's that mutual respect there. You know that Chris Bosh is somebody who is more than willing to help and be a part of this. So all of those things I think can really help this team moving forward. I want to make sure that I'm getting all these chats. Hey, somebody asked about if this is a Don Strock jersey back here. It is not. This was when we were doing these at-home sets. The Dolphins were nice enough to send me a jersey with number 10 for local 10. However, Don Strock is a Virginia Tech legend, so so I will gladly take that.
It's kind of hokey. That's kind of hokey from you, but okay, we'll go ahead.
You know that we had to do that. So okay, let's kind of recap everything we've talked about and big picture where the Heat are. Oh, somebody asked about Omer Yurtseven. Is he a lock to make the team? I think he's a lock to win MVP within the next 3 years. So,
or within the Sacramento Summer League, at least one of the two. You know, it's interesting though how Omer Yurtseven had a contract from the Heat. The Heat did not pick up that contract at last weekend's deadline. He still remains. He could be signed by any team now, and that does happen, Clay, during Summer League. The Heat have had players who've excelled in Summer League, and boom, someone has stepped in, and taken one of their players. So they might have a decision there.
It happened recently. There was a big man a few years ago. Who am I?
Willie Reed.
Yes.
The Heat had to deal with Willie Reed, and Willie Reed was dominant, and then Willie Reed was gone.
Yes.
Eventually, he circled back and cycled back to the Heat. So you do have players like that. They can also offer Omer a two-way contract. You know, it's interesting because I spoke to Omer before Summer League, and I said, you know what? They only have one big man under contract, the Bam Adebayo. Your chances here. And he says, yeah, and I want to seize it. I want to show we struggled with rebounding last year, and in the playoffs, I want to show I can do that. Since I spoke to Omer, they re-upped with Dwayne Dedmon. They brought in Markieff Morris. They brought in PJ Tucker. So I'm not so sure that it might not have to be a two-way for Omer to stay in the Heat's orbit. He's interesting. The one thing we both learned, Clay, over the years, we've seen the Summer League superstar. And the Summer League superstar often fades into the G League or winds up playing over Macedonia. So let's keep perspective also. Now, if he does it again tonight against the Warriors, then all bets are off.
Turkish terror. I love it. All right, let's finish this off lightning round. Let's go through all these signings and give us quick thoughts. Kyle Lowry, overall thought is?
An overpay for a team that needed to overpay. Absolutely will produce, but is under contract through age 38. This might be a case of living in the moment, having to pay for it in the future.
One we haven't even talked about, Jimmy Butler extension.
You know, it's the same thing that's going to happen Friday. Friday at 12:01 a.m. is the earliest that he can extend Jimmy Butler. 4 years, $181 million. Everything I've heard, and seemingly everyone else has heard, is that's a done deal again. An overpay for the future to live in the moment. That's sort of one of the benefits and the downsides of having a team president of Pat Riley in his mid-70s. He's living in the moment. What Andy Ellisberg and Adam Simon might have to clean up down the road, leave it to the Arrisons.
Markieff Morris.
I'd love to get excited, and then I looked at the stats from last year, and I looked at games in the playoffs when he couldn't even get on the floor. To me, they realized when they had PJ Tucker's not a 40-minute player. They had to either find a spot starter or someone to share the job. So I would say they signed Markieff Morris as part of a job share. This will be power forward by committee. And Clay, is like that old maxim in football, when you have two quarterbacks, you have none. I'm not so sure when the Heat have two power forwards, they necessarily have their quote-unquote Jay Crowder level answer.
One caveat I'm going to put on that, I was doing a little research from the Lakers side. Apparently, he had some injury stuff last year and never quite came all the way back. So hopefully he turns more into the player that we saw even in the bubble for them, as opposed to what we saw last year. You mentioned him, PJ Tucker.
You know what? I mean, on one hand, you get a guy for 1 year. He can fill a role. He's a tough defender, sort of in that Jay Crowder role, but not as much of an offensive threat. A nice player, not a game-changing player. And the fact that he was upset that Milwaukee did not step forward and go into the luxury tax to keep a championship player, I'm not so sure we're getting a player who as much wants to be here, who is just more upset about not being in Milwaukee. That's going to be an interesting situation to keep an eye on.
Oh, and to me, that makes it even better. I think that, man, you want that sort of attitude. Dwayne Dedmon.
Perfect. I mean, he was perfect when he came in. Clay, what I want to see is this. And Eric Spoelstra, you know, Eric Spoelstra, one of his thoughts when we ask him about starting lineups and about rotations is he always says, and you've heard this all the time with your work at Local 10, I'm open to end everything and anything. He always says that. But he hasn't been open to playing two big men together. He didn't do it with Bam Adebayo and Hassan Whiteside. He didn't do it with Dwayne Dedmon and Bam Adebayo, except for short periods. I need to see if that's workable. Because if that is workable, then all of a sudden only having PJ Tucker and Markieff Morris works out fine because you're also going to have Bam and Dedmon minutes. Love Dwayne being back. Really want to see if it's workable at all with Adebayo and Dedmon. And again, that goes back to what you spoke about in the previous segment. Can Bam Adebayo have enough of an outside threat that the spacing can still be there playing alongside a true center?
And finally, Duncan Robinson.
You know what? On the face of it, when you look at $90 million for undrafted player who came out of the G League, you kind of see, you step back a little and then you say, you know what? Almost every NBA starter makes $18 million a year. It's not that ridiculous. It's sort of the price. This team needed Duncan Robinson or a Duncan Robinson facsimile. The question now becomes, will Duncan Robinson stay at a level that you don't say, well, we could have gotten Wayne Ellington or Malik Monk or another shooter? He has been that. He's unique to the Heat. You have to pay market value. They knew that deal would get done. So I think in the end of the day, that's a deal they had to do. I don't think a deal with the devil. It's just crazy. 18 million going rate.
You know what I think is funny? We went through, I think, 6 names there. And with every single one, the first thing you did when I said the name was sigh.
And like even because they didn't get that max guy, because they didn't get the sexy guy. When they got Kyle Lowry at 35. Kyle Lowry, even when he was a little chunkier, was sexier at 30. That was when he was sort of in his wheelhouse. So Clay, I would almost ask, except for Duncan Robinson, have any of these players the Heat added, have they gotten him in his wheelhouse, in the prime of his game? That's my concern. Who knows? Maybe the Max Strus and Gabe Vincent signings turn out to be guys in their wheelhouse. But I think that's part of this also.
Yeah, and I also think if you go back to 2006, they did a lot of that, and yet you had Dwayne Wade in his prime. And I think that made everything different. And so I guess I would look at it like this as we start to wrap this thing up. I feel like, yes, you can look at each individual signing, and the first thing you do is sigh because of the age factor and how much money these guys are going to be getting. And yet I also think you have to take it all in the totality of this team went back to finally getting its identity back. And I think that you always need that thing that you can fall back on. If you're the Milwaukee Bucks, you're going to fall back on Giannis. If you're the Brooklyn Nets, you got 3 guys that you can fall back on. The LA Lakers, all of these great teams have something they can fall back on.
Sure.
With the Heat, they're going to have the toughness, the identity, and that's going to be what they late game situations. Now you finally have somebody, as you said earlier, in Kyle Lowry, you can put the ball in his. It's not just Jimmy Butler or bust. But I think that what they've been able to do, in addition to adding somebody in those late game scenarios, in addition to adding some guys who can make life difficult for the better players in the Eastern Conference, is on the whole, you've got your identity back. You're going to be the toughest, meanest, nastiest group of guys in the Eastern Conference. And I think, yes, I'm not sitting here arguing that the talent is going to be on the level of those top teams. But Ira, I feel like we've seen many times in team sports that a lot of having that identity and the whole being greater than the sum of its parts can take you to places that maybe the talent can't.
Well, it's interesting because while we were talking, the Heat just posted its motto for the coming season. And I think it's interesting because the motto is going to be take the under. And I think that's what this team is about. I don't think there's going to be a line on a game this year when you look to the Heat and you look at this situation that you don't say to yourself, hey, this game might not reach 200. That's who they're going to be. So as long as you can sort of align yourself with that, the fact that that's how this team is going to play, the defensive team, the Riley Knicks, like we mentioned earlier, the Oakley, Mason, Starks, Ewing teams, the Alonzo Mourning, PJ Brown, Dan Marley teams that started, Pat Riley really revitalizing this team. They have their identity right now. It's going to be a hell of a challenge for Eric Spoelstra to get points out of this group. It's going to have to be a different player every night. They're going to have to do it more by committee. But yeah, we know who they are. This is not the offseason when they just threw money and made it rain to Deion Waiters and James Johnson and Kelly Olynyk and Wayne Ellington and just, okay, here's a bunch of guys. Go ahead, Spo, make something out of this. Make chicken soup out of chicken feathers. No, they now have grade A chicken cutlets to work with to make something far more tastier in a delicious Filipino delicacy.
There is a world where Jimmy Butler and Pat Riley ride off into the sunset on horses to the Malibu home of Riley, and there's the sunset in the background, and they look back and they say, we did it our way. And I'm not saying there's like even a greater than 5% chance of that happening. But man, what a story it would be if they all put that together. So thanks for hanging out with us. We're going to have a lot more on this coming up next week. And Ira, as you said, there's still more work to be done with this team.
And I'm going to be in Vegas next week at the butt crack of dawn with you on the show instead. So
good luck with that.
Yeah, you know what? I'll see what kind of fashionable pajamas I can show up with.
Well, here's the thing. We know how Ira rolls anyway. He's going to be out at the casino. So he's just going to roll out of the casino, do the show here, and then go to sleep. So that's Ira's just, man, that's just how he rolls out.
Reeking of tobacco and whiskey. Just another Wednesday morning coming up.
All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out here on Inside the Paint. Let's do this again next week right here on the Big O Radio Show.
You've been listening to the Pallet Rack City Inside the Paint program with Ira Winderman and Clay Ferraro, exclusively on the Big O Radio Show. Search Big O Radio Show on most platforms. Subscribe and smash the like button to support Inside the Paint. If you want your warehouse sporting the finest racks in the business, there's only one choice: Pallet Rack City.
There's no need to drive around South Florida wasting valuable time looking for a new or certified pre-owned Acura. Go to the #1 volume sales dealership in the Southeast United States. Craig Zinn Acura of Pembroke Pines. Purchase with pace and space in a dealership tailored to your needs. From home buying to providing that personal touch. Contact the 2020 Satisfaction Award winner Craig Zinn Acura of Pembroke Pines. 888-776-5123. That's 888-776-5123. Or visit them at 15601 Pines Boulevard in Pembroke Pines.
The viewpoint, statements, or beliefs expressed on the following program by the host, guests, or callers are not necessarily the opinions of FantasyXS.com, Media Group Inc., ownership, management, sponsors, or website. When it comes to South Florida sports teams, very few in the media have witnessed, lived, and covered it like the Big O. Let's start the program dedicated to your favorite South Florida teams with a passion that's unmatched. The Big O Radio Show is on. Here's the Big O.
All right, welcome aboard. It's, I guess this is part of hour 2, I guess, because we started at 9:30 or something, right? So great job by Ira and Clay. Another terrific hour of Inside the Paint. Boys covered everything that you could possibly cover about the Heat. And I'm sure that as things go on, they'll include more NBA talk. But obviously right now, with everything that was gone on in free agency, there's so much to talk about with the Heat. So we focus mostly on the Heat. But I'm sure they'll add some NBA talk as the year goes on. Remember, it's every Wednesday that the guys will be doing. And that'll be cool. Next week, Ira will be out in Vegas for the Vegas Summer League. So he'll be covering the Vegas Summer League and obviously giving us all the insight with his reports here on our show. So looking forward to having Ira on next week. Remember, Ira now is Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. All right. So Ira will be back on Friday for his report for his Acura of Pembroke Pines Miami Heat report. But we just had a great Pallet Rack City Inside the Paint hour. And that was absolutely fantastic by the guys and great response. And I like that all of you out there were, if you were on the chat board, you were sending in questions, which is cool. Stay interactive. We like to be interactive here on the program. And obviously everybody else tied to this show will be interactive. And the guys were also interactive and taking some of your questions and comments. So it's good stuff there. We want you to know that when you chat or you send an email or anything like that, or by the way, Matthew Owen, thank you, sir, for a little love on the super chat. And he says, keep it up. Thank you, Matthew. And remember, folks, that you can make a donation to the program. We'd prefer you do it through Cash App and Venmo. Cash Big O Show is the address. Cash Big O Show, because the show gets the entire donation. Whereas if we do it on the super chat, which I don't mind, but YouTube gets 30% of it, right? So we don't get as much. So just in case, if you have Cash App or Venmo, that would be the better way to help out the show. But I appreciate it whether you do it on super chat or Cash App or Venmo. But anyway, if you do it on Cash App or Venmo, Cash Big O Show is the way to go. Two Extreme says, such a great show. Great job. Really enjoyed it. Thank you. Thank you. I thought that those two would hit it off and do a great job. And there's no doubt that that's going to be a terrific show every week. And I think it's must see or listen to, depending on how you want to do it. If you want to watch it on YouTube, you can do it. If you want to listen to it, you can do it. We're starting now, by the way, on YouTube to break down some of the segments, some of the interviews we're going to add on there. We added the Omar Kelly one, so we're going to be trying to add some interviews also for you here on the program. So look out for that also on YouTube. And that way it's a little easier, because I know that, on audio, we make it easy for everybody. We break it up in hours. We break it up the complete show. We break up the interviews, some rants, things like that, because that's kind of the attention span in today's world. So I know, and a lot of you, may not have time. The other thing is, when you put up the whole show, then people have to search for things, and then, they don't want to do that kind of stuff. You got to make it as easy as possible for people. That's one of the things I've learned as we've done this every day. You got to try to make it as easy as possible for people to participate and enjoy the program, because sometimes they only want to hear the Dolphins talk, or the Heat talk, or the Panthers talk, or the Inter Miami talk, or the Marlins talk, or something like that. And that's all they want to hear at that moment. So you got to individually put some of that stuff up, man. Alfredo says, damn, I missed Inside the Paint. I rewind. There you go. Rewind, man. You can rewind. You get on there, and we've been on since 9:30. Remember, Wednesdays we come on at 9:30, and we warm up the seat for the guys for the first half hour before Inside the Paint takes over at 10 a.m. We are awaiting Alan Poupar and the Sports Grill, Miami Sports Grill Insiders Miami Dolphins show. So we will see if we can get Alan on. He'll be on at some time in this hour. Can't tell you exactly when, because it's when he's available over there at camp, and then he'll chime in with us, and we'll get his thoughts on what's going on in camp today, and his thoughts in the first couple of days, now that this is the second day of them actually putting on some pads, which is really good stuff. Let's see. Bam drives me crazy when he gets the ball on the top of the key and keeps his back to the basket to hand it off. The defender then backs off and clogs the paint, face the basket, and become a scoring threat. Well, it's not just face the basket. It's the second part. It's you need to become a scoring threat. And that's what he needs to do. He kind of scores, almost out of necessity at times, because it was finally set up for him around the rim, or once in a while he'll take it, but he has to be way more aggressive. And he has to act like it's his damn team. He has to take over. And he has a very passive attitude. And and he's a hell of a player. I mean, it's not like we don't want him on the team, right? It's just you see the potential that he could be more. That's what it is. It's that, that's the other thing that I want people to understand, because I understand what Omar Lopez is saying. And I think all of us kind of feel the same way. We have our little gripes, right? We're not pissed at the guy. We're not complaining, but it is a gripe. And it's like, come on, Ben, we know you can be better. We see it. You can be great. You know what I mean? And we're waiting for that moment for him to, take over. And maybe it never happens. Maybe it never happens. Maybe he's just not that guy. Maybe it's not in his DNA to be an alpha. You know what I mean? Some guys have it and some guys don't. And it's got to come out already at this point. If it doesn't, I think by this year or even next year, then we've got to say, yeah, that this is not who he is. You know what I mean? And that's just the sad part. Sometimes you can't change somebody's personality. That no matter who it is, it's impossible. You are what you are, man. You know what I mean? And so maybe that's just him. But we'll find out. I mean, we're already at that point where if it doesn't happen now, by this year, maybe even next year, then you gotta stop even worrying about it or even expecting it. It's you got your finished product. That's it. He reached this pinnacle, and this is who he is. But we all see that talent-wise, he can do a lot more. Alfredo says, I enjoy Summer League better than the NBA regular season. I know I'm crazy. Alfredo, I got to tell you something. I don't enjoy it more than the regular season, but I do enjoy summer league. I'm with you. I like to record the summer league games, not just the Heat one. I record the other ones and I watch them. So yeah, I'm like you. I'm kind of sick and twisted. In fact, I was talking to Bill about this about a month ago, that my vision, and I was talking to Ira about this too, actually, about a month ago, and we were talking about doing all of this and getting him on the show and starting to do everything, inside the pain and the Acura reports and all that kind of stuff. And we were talking about a month ago. That's because we agreed to a deal with Acura, but they weren't going to really officially start. Well, they started last month, but like with the reports this month. And because we wanted to start right around free agency. And so I told Ira, my vision is next year, our show will be in the Vegas Summer League. We'll go out to Vegas. We already have a place to broadcast in Vegas. So all we need to do is, just get the right sponsors, cover the costs of flying out there and the hotel, and stay out there for whatever it is, a couple days a week, whatever it is that we have to stay, and cover summer league, do the shows, maybe get players on, whatever it is, obviously have Ira, but if we can get anybody else, we'll get other people on, have some fun while we're out there. Obviously got to catch a concert or two, those kind of things. So I'm hoping next year that we start doing not just the football stuff that we do, East West and Senior Bowl and Combine, and hopefully by next year we've reached the point that we're a lot better with the virus, and I can travel again to the Combine. And because I heard the Combine this year was a disaster, and the Senior Bowl, even though they had it, it was it wasn't really accessible like normal and things like that. So I'm glad I didn't go. But if we could get back to it, I'd love to cover the football stuff. And then I'd love to cover the basketball stuff in the summer. I think that would be cool. I think that's where we're at right now, because football and basketball have gone year round. Ira was like, "Hey, you sure you want me early, early on in the season talking basketball during football?" I said, "Yeah, because we have basketball fans. So people will download the football stuff when they want to hear the football stuff, and the people that want to hear basketball, they'll get the download, because that's where we're at nowadays. We got a lot of passion for both sports." Let's see. Tony says, I heard Marcus Smart mentioned with the Heat. Is that still an option? I think he would be a great backup guard. Marcus Smart is going to demand way too much money. I don't think Miami can get a guy like that at this point. I don't know if there's some kind of sign and trade that they can pull off, but they can't. They can't get him as a free agent. That's for sure. Ken Lowe says the same thing as Parker. It's time to trade Parker or just let him go. Are you talking about Devontae Parker? And it's funny that you mentioned that, because Devontae Parker catched a slant from Tua on 11 on 11s right now and went for 15 yards. And the guys were actually talking about it right now. Raekwon Davis, by the way, just slammed Myles Gaskins to the ground. So you see, it's getting active there in camp. Lim Bowden Jr. is having a quiet camp. Let's see, what else do we have here coming in? Now, listen, here's the thing about the Devontae Parker thing. And this happens sometimes, and I love you guys out there. I love you, all you fans out there, but sometimes you're not realistic. So let me ask you something. Devontae Parker, often injured, right? What kind of a market do you actually think there's going to be out there for Devontae Parker? You've got to pay whatever it is, $8 million. I can look up his salary, whatever it is, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever. Let's just say. And what kind of a pick also are you going to give for an often injured guy? Think about that. So it's really easy to say, well, trade his ass. He's always injured. Okay. How tradable is he? How sexy is he? So let me ask you now. When he's healthy, he can play. He can help you. I'm not telling you he's an elite receiver, but the dude can play when he's healthy, right? But if you're not going to get anything more than a 6th or 7th rounder, are you sure that you're going to have 6 guys better than him? or are you just better off keeping him? You know what I mean? And that's what you got to look at. All right, it is time now. We're going to get into our Sports Grill Miami Dolphins Insider Report with, of course, Alan Poupart. And you can follow him on Twitter at Poupart NFL. Oh, he's got a new Expos hat too now. He's styling it because you on Saturday you had the worn out one. Now you brought out like a newer lid out there, bro. You're gonna sweat that one up. Are you good with that?
I'm fine with it. Gotta rep one way or another, my man.
Okay. All right. Well, he'll be repping twice a week here now with the Sports Grill Miami Dolphins Insider Report. And don't forget, Sports Grill has 7 great locations. We want you to check out Bird and Miami Lakes. They've been around since 1987, baby. Make sure you tell them that the Big O Show sent you, baby. All right. So, Alan, you can follow him on Twitter at Poupart NFL. Alan, first of all, how are you reacting to Flores saying that the X negotiations or X talking at least is headed in the right direction? What does that mean? What do you read into it?
I am reacting with a healthy dose of skepticism. My question is, if we were to ask Howard these days or his agent David Cantor, who has declined to comment on this situation, if they agree that the contract talks are quote unquote heading in the right direction, not 100% sure that they would necessarily agree with that assessment. So it's a very vague statement. And what does it mean? Are they closer in contract talks? Are they closer from their standpoint to getting X to cave in and play under his contract? All I know is there's no movement. He's not on a practice again today with what Flores is saying is an ankle injury. And I'm going to use maybe ankle injury. And then yesterday, toward the end of practice, he came jogging onto the field, I think, to join the sideline. And it's pretty good to me, actually, for somebody who's been out for a week with an ankle injury.
Yeah, I figured that. You know, the cynical one in me is thinking maybe these guys are like, you know what? Maybe we give him a couple guarantees in the contract this year. That way it shuts him up, it keeps him happy, and then he goes out there and he plays, and he forgets all about it. And at the end of the year, we ship his ass out when we know where everybody stands around the NFL in the draft and all of that, and we could get a better deal at the end of the year than we can right now. And the unknown of, even if you trade, you don't know where that team is going to end up in the draft, and it might end up being a later pick. So I'm almost, the cynical one in me is also thinking maybe we just shut him up a little bit this year and then trade his ass in the offseason. That's the kind of progress I'm thinking that could be happening. Any chance of that?
Yeah, no, certainly. I think anything's open to interpretation. Any possibility is out there. I think the bottom line, too, Dolphins, it doesn't make sense for the Dolphins to trade him right now if they have playoff aspirations in 2021, because more than likely you're getting draft picks back. That doesn't help you this year, and doesn't take a rocket scientist or a football expert to realize that there's going to be a major drop-off without X on the roster. So it benefits them greatly to try to work this out. And if it ends up being that they throw him some guaranteed money or move some money around and give him a little bit more this year, that does make sense. Then the question becomes, why haven't they done that to this point? Why have they let this drag out all the way until training camp? The situation going on right now, I'm going to guess can't come as a shock to the Dolphins that Howard would go public with a request of a trade if he spent all season asking for a new contract and you haven't given it to him.
That's it's going to be interesting to see how this whole thing ends. Alan Poupart, of course, joining us for the Sports Grill Miami Dolphins Insider Report. He'll be doing it twice a week here. Follow him on Twitter. You can see it right there under his mug right there at Poupart NFL. All right, so how do we read into Solomon Kinley falling all the way down to the third team? And what have you seen so far in the first couple of days?
Well, the first thing I would say is I wouldn't overreact to second team, third team on the second day of padded practice. That's number one. Number two, I would still highly anticipate that he'll be on the roster come September 12th. Having said that, not looking particularly good for him in terms of his prospects of being a starter. The issue with him, I think, he's too big. That was a factor last year. And that I think that contributed in part to the foot problems that he wound up having after starting off actually fairly well. Dolphins had three rookies starting on the offensive line at some point, and safe to say that early on he was probably the most impressive of the three, but then that play kind of faded, and there are conditioning concerns with the guy. I think there's still enough there that he's going to be on the roster. And like I said, though, I wouldn't anticipate him being a starter, but I also don't anticipate, or I wouldn't suggest that just because somebody else got second team reps at guard yesterday means his time in Miami is soon to come to an end.
What have you seen from Michael Dieter at center now in the first day of pads? Because I know second day just started, so it's hard to get a read. What'd you think of Dieter so far?
No, he looked fine. I mean, again, it's the first day of practice. I don't think you'd be looking at Mike Pouncey or Markieff Pouncey or any of the dominant centers in the NFL, but I think he can be a solid piece. I think the more important guys might be guys like Austin Jackson. Rob Hunt's the guy who I have the most hopes for on that offensive line. I think he's got the potential to be really, really good. And Dieter's job is going to be to help the communication, no mistakes, and hold his own when it comes to either pass blocking or run blocking. And at this point, based on what we've seen, it sure looks like he's going to be the guy at center.
So no truth that Dwight Stevenson was on the sidelines drooling at how good Dieter was practicing. No truth to that.
No, but Vince Wilfork was on the sideline yesterday. He may have been drooling looking at Dieter for another reason, but we don't want to go there. That's not very nice.
I love it. All right, so your assessment of Tua so far, I know people are talking about progress and all that stuff, and, Saturday I was there, and he made a couple nice passes, but with no pads, it's hard for me to take any of this seriously. So I trust your assessment. What do you see in Tua right now?
I see some nice throws, mostly intermediate range throws, which is going to have to be where he makes his money. If he's going to take a big step forward in 2021, it's going to be short, intermediate throws, get it out quickly, be accurate with it, let your receivers get a lot of yak. I think there's a little bit of a false narrative that's being pushed around by my colleagues here that he's completely lighting it up when the setting is conducive to that. There's some throws that he's made, some long completions where they come after 5 seconds in the pocket where he's patting the ball and they're not stopping the play because it's practice. And then boom, there goes a long completion. Well, yeah, in a game that doesn't really happen like that. So I would say
right.
definitely see progress, but again, I would caution against fans getting him fitted for his Hall of Fame jacket already.
All right. When you start looking at practice, who's the guy that really stands out to you right now? When you start to brag about, okay, well, this guy really looks good to me. I know you've seen most of the stuff without pads and only one day, and now there's a second day with pads. But is there somebody that has caught your attention on any side of the ball?
Yeah, there's three guys that I've kind of noticed, and two of them are really below the radar guys. And then the one guy who really caught my eye is Benardrick McKinney, the guy the linebacker they got from Houston in the offseason trade for Shaq Lawson. Couldn't show a whole lot of what he does in the practices without pads because his forte is being a physical guy. But you just look at him and, man, he looks the part. That is one big dude. And then the pads come on yesterday. There's a lot of focus on the running game, and that dude's always in the backfield or the first one to make contact with the running back. So, yeah, really, again, very, very early, but really like them. And then two guys who were more so in the passing game and then this is what we saw most of last week, Robert Foster, who when he was signed, it's like, yeah, he's got gunner experience. He's a wide receiver, but mostly a gunner. He catches there, he gets open, he catches everything thrown his way. And I'm looking at him, how do you keep this guy on the roster? Now, having said that, he needs to carry that over to the preseason and the joint practices. But if he continues on this track, you just can't keep him off the roster. The guy's been that good. And then defensively, we talk about the cornerbacks, and I will give you the name of one youngster who's kind of completely an unknown, but Terrell Bonds play after play after play he's making in coverage, and he's got really tight coverage this morning. He had a nice pass breakup. Actually had a pick, I should say, in a one-on-one half-field drill from the 20-yard line, which, as you know, heavily favors the offense because they have so much room to go. And he literally undercut the receiver on his route and picked off Jacoby Brissett. That kid's been really impressive.
So you're saying we have to start printing shirts, can't keep Foster off the roster? Is that what you're saying?
Very good. I like that.
Right.
Very good.
You remember Free Eddie House back in the Heat days? Eddie House?
Yep.
Can't keep Foster off the roster. Okay. He was the kid that made the sideline catch on Saturday. The right sideline catch. Yep. I thought it was Preston because I thought it was 18. I go, is that wait a minute, he's injured. No, he's not here. That's Foster. That was him, right?
That's all he's done. I mean, that's one of me. And even going back to the spring, dude was getting open, and like the first time I noticed him is he caught like a pass right near the sideline, did a toe tap job, made the catch, which like semi-routine. It's a practice, but still very impressive. Yeah, and you mentioned Preston. No, Preston nowhere to be seen. So it wasn't happening.
Yeah. Well, listen, I hope they take their time with Preston and give him time to be really healthy to get out there and actually win a spot. I thought they rushed him a little bit too much last year, and then he ends up suffering another setback. He's got so much talent. Make sure he's healthy so he can have a legitimate shot at actually winning that job. Let me ask you, how concerned should we be about Noah not being the guy while X is out and that Needham is the guy right now, or are you not concerned about that?
No, I'm concerned whether it's Needham, whether it's Benogany, whether it winds up being Jason McCord, even though I see him more as the free safety. Look, no matter who it's going to be a massive, massive drop-off. And not only that, it's going to hurt what the Dolphins like to do, which is get those corners on an island and then get funky up front with the blitzes and the coverages and the disguises. So to me, it's still too early to suggest, they're taking turns again at every position. So one day, Benogany is going to be the guy getting the first team reps. One day it's going to be Nick Needham. I haven't seen either one of them really stand out in a positive or negative way. But based on what we saw last year, I mean, Benogany has had a major long road to go to get to like NFL caliber cornerback level.
What is it for you in your eyes that you think Igbenogany is struggling with?
Well, I mean, he'll tell you himself. He's just kind of a newbie at the position. He started off at Auburn as a wide receiver last year. I can tell you one of the things that got him several times is he got caught peeking into the backfield when the receiver would just turn and look back there for 2 seconds and then zoom and zip right by him. That obviously can't happen, and logically that starts happening less and less and less as he gains more experience.
That's the receiver in him, isn't it? Because the receiver does that all the time while he's trying to find a hole in the defense. If the guy's scrambling or whatever, the receiver habitually has to look back there, whereas habitually they don't want you looking back there that much if you're the corner, right? That's kind of the way it goes.
Correct, and his instincts, it may be ingrained in him that he's looking for that ball to come out, and he's peeking, but can't do that. I mean, I'm all for turning your head around and making a play on the ball, but it's got to be at the right time, and he's got to be cognizant of the fact that if he bit that much as a rookie, opponents are going to come at him with those kinds of double moves quite frequently.
We're talking, of course, with Alan Poupart and the Miami Dolphins Insider Report, brought to you by Sports Grill. What happened? What's going on? What's the cheering on? Give us a play-by-play.
It's a 7-7 drill, and Tua just had a long completion down the right sideline through. Looks like Myles Gaskin. The
nice.
7-on-7 drill, yep.
All right, Myles Gaskin. I like that. How's that running back position for you? Is it Myles Gaskins to lose, or is it somebody out there that you think is going to take that job from Myles Gaskins and try to be the number one guy?
No, Myles Gaskins is going to be the number one guy. That's pretty clear cut at this point. The only question is how much how much action, how many touches. Guys like Xavien Howard, who, by the way, is wearing a red no-contact jersey again. He suffered a minor injury a couple of days ago, but he's been at practice, but he's wearing that red jersey. So Xavien Howard, Malcolm Brown, who is not here today. I don't really think I can see Jared Dokes, a 7th-round pick from Cincinnati, factor very much as a rookie. I think he'd be more like either end of the roster or practice squad type of guy. But without question, it's Myles Gaskin show as the number one guy.
Injury-wise, anything we need to know?
No, I mentioned Malcolm Brown's not out here. We don't know the reason. Andrew Van Ginkel walked off the field towards the end of practice yesterday, limping. Brian Flores told us he's day-to-day, working to get back. Doesn't sound like it's anything serious. And of course, still no sign of Will Fuller, who hasn't practiced since leaving early in the first day. And of course, we have the injured.
Yeah, the so-called injury with that one. Exactly. All right, what are you working on SI so folks can check you out before I let you go?
Anything and everything. I mean, the second Brian Flores' press conference is done, I'll provide a complete wrap-up of what he said, the highlights of what he says. The second practice is done. We'll have a full rundown of the highlights and lowlights of practice, and then anything that's pertinent with the team. I mean, I'm up to about 5 stories a day on the site every day, so certainly encourage everyone to check it out.
There you go. Check it out. Poupart NFL. Check out his SI coverage as he covers the Dolphins on a daily basis, and you will catch him twice a week here on the Big O Radio Show. Alan, thank you, my brother. I appreciate you immensely. Enjoy the rest of practice.
You got it, Big O.
And that's a killer Expos hat. Nice job by you. Be good, brother. There you go. People are loving that sweet lid of his from the Expos. It is a nice lid, isn't it? Good job by Alan Poupart. That is his debut here. You will catch him now twice a week here. All right, we keep adding, baby. We just keep adding and adding talent and adding more talent. And hopefully tomorrow we will have an announcement of a new addition to the show coming up. So looking forward to that. More Dolphin coverage. Yes. So, yeah. So we're going to have the best Dolphin, the best Heat coverage here for you. And we already give you the best Inter Miami coverage. And we talk Panthers also, always. We'll bring on David Dwork. We'll bring on George Richards. Always, man. We're going to cover every single sport here. We're not, obviously, you all know I live and eat and breathe football. Yes, that's my favorite sport in the world. But I am an all sports guy, and I follow everything, love everything. So you can always catch all kinds of sports on this program, at least. Tremolio says Noah, Waddle, Wilson, Holland, Bowen have all been good returners. Flo isn't going to keep a guy that will have 3 to 4 touches, Jakeem, versus a pivotal player. Yeah, Tremolio, you have all those guys. You could say they're returners. Are they elite returners? You know, because Noah, Waddle, Wilson, Holland, Bowen, or Bowden have never been elite returners in the NFL. So it's, again, I don't know if you saw Flo's comments, but, you know, he was pretty complimentary about Jakeem Grant. You know, he likes the kind of guys that can flip the field, he was saying. Armando Salguero says Noah Igbenogany, working with the backups, beaten deep by Isaiah Ford on a pass by Jacoby Brissett. So Noah Igbenogany not making the transition yet. Thrill Williams with a nice breakup of a Sinet deep ball, got in there at the last minute. And who was just talking about Trill Williams? Alan Poupart was just talking about him, how he's actually been playing well too. Let's see. And Omar goes, Isaiah Ford just roasted Noah Igbenogany on a deep pass from Brissett and went 45 yards. Great throw. Tua with a nice 25-yard reception. That's the one that Alan was talking about for Myles Gaskins along the right sideline. Javon Holland would have run Gaskins the ball if the actions were live, but nice throw. Okay. There you go. So those are some of the things going on in practice, and we'll keep you updated throughout if we see any, unfortunately, any injuries, which I don't even want to read about a damn injury. You know what I'm saying? That these are things like that. Injuries are the thing injuries are the thing that will ruin your day because it's ruining your season, right? Like you're watching your team or you're at work or whatever, or you're on your way home and then you hear this report, you see it on Twitter, one of your most important players blows out a knee ligament, an Achilles or whatever, and it's like this bucket of giant cold ass water that gets doused on you, right? And you're like, oh man, how's my team going to recover from that? That's the worst part about training camp and preseason, because it's meaningless football on the standings. It's really not meaningless football because you need to practice to get better and sharpen your skills in anything you do in life. It's not just a football thing. It's anything that you do. And I don't care if you're a video editor, you're an artist, you're a painter, I don't care what you do. You're a singer, whatever, dude. You need to practice anything, any kind of craft that you do to get better at it. And so practice is necessary. But man, when you see a guy blow out his Achilles in practice and you're like, damn, he didn't even get hurt in the regular season. It's one of those things. It's gut wrenching. It's like a knife in your stomach, that kind of stuff. I know I'm going a little bit to the extreme, but you know what I'm saying? That's the one thing that I never want to read about injuries, see injuries. Just look at the Colts. Look at the Colts fans. You make the move for Wentz, and I know he's always injured, but you're hoping that he doesn't get injured. And look, now he's injured, and now they're talking about the Colts have the hardest schedule in the first 5 weeks of the season. And if this guy misses, a significant amount of time, and do you see that they're talking about Phillip Rivers? And Phillip Rivers is like, yeah, I'm retired, but, I haven't ruled it out. I throw the ball around a little bit. I'm starting to get in shape a little bit, so I haven't ruled it out. Are you serious that you would want to actually get this guy back? By the way, global coronavirus cases surpassed 200 million, according to Reuters. Man, scary. Let's see. Rosendo says, any high school local sports talk in the future? I would not rule that out. Any horse racing talk? Maybe. You never know. I could see that. If we partner up with somebody, that could be something that we could add to it. We could add a segment that way. I'm open to anything, man. Digitally, it should all be available to people if we can. So yeah, I can't rule out anything. I'm not anti anything, dude. I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy that hates, soccer or hates baseball or hates hockey or hates MMA or anything like that's not who I am. I like every sport pretty much. Now, I may not tell you that I like every sport the way I love football. No, it's different. You know what I mean? But I do care about watching all kinds of sports. I can't wait to hear the announcement of MTG Ectoplasm joining the Big O show, providing the best magic, the gathering information. Okay. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to talking to MTG Ectoplasm. If they want to join the show, let's go. Bring them aboard. And remember, folks, EJD Construction, Pallet Rack City. You own a warehouse. You need some racks. Call our folks at Pallet Rack City. All right. Eddie Pereira does excellent work. You need construction in your home. EJD Construction is phenomenal at doing all kinds of stuff. That's the other important thing. Car, you're looking for a car. You want to buy or lease one. Acura Pembroke Pines. That's the other thing that's very, very important, ladies and gentlemen, that you use our sponsors. We have great sponsors. I usually don't team up with somebody that is not a good sponsor, and so it's very important that if you're looking for some of the things that we do have here, please use our sponsors also and mention our show. That's incredibly important. If you like what we're doing, right, and you want us to grow, that's why I tell you, smash the like button. That's a way of helping us. Share the link. Donate on Cash App or Venmo. Cash Big O Show. Visit our sponsors. Subscribe, download podcasting, the video, all of these kind of things. One way or another, you will be helping the show out immensely. So if you want us to continue to grow and add more elements, and listen, I'm a born and raised guy here in South Florida. All right. I care about our local sports more than anything else in the sports world. Sure, I watch everything else, but I care about South Florida sports first. Something that doesn't happen in 560, doesn't happen in 940, doesn't happen in 790, doesn't happen in any station locally. None of them are dedicated to local sports. They just have a couple of half-ass shows. Some stations just sell their time for people to buy it. Some stations just have a couple of shows left, and they don't care about us. You know what I mean? That's the difference. So if you want to help us grow here to create the kind of show that South Florida sports fans all around the world want, please support us in the many different ways that you can support us here on the show. And we talk about it all the time, and we thank you for that. I would not put Waddle doing punts. To me, it doesn't matter. I love how some people like the Demolio, you want to just throw names out there like, oh yeah, they can do the job that Jakeem Grant can. Meanwhile, there's like 27 teams in the NFL that don't have a guy like Jakeem Grant. Yet no, we'll just get rid of him because he's just not that important. It's like you make it sound like it's that easy. And I love Tremolio, but you throw out names like that, and none of them have ever proven anything. So you have no idea if they can do it. You can say it, but there's no substance behind it. The only substance that exists is that Jakeem Grant is one of the 3 best returners in the NFL. Period. End of argument. End of discussion. Since the second the guy stepped onto an NFL field, he's a top 3 returner. No one else on the Dolphins can say that. No one else in the NFL on 27 other teams can say that. That's a lot of people. Everybody's carrying around 90 players. 90 times 27, you do the math. That's a shitload of players. And that's a shitload of players that can say, yeah, no, I can't even come close to Jakeem Grant. They can dream to be a returner like Jakeem Grant, but they're not a returner like Jakeem Grant. So it's really easy to invent stuff and say, oh, no, we'll get rid of him and we'll put this guy there and he'll be just as good. We'll put Noah Igbenogany there and he'll be just as good. Get the hell out of here, dude. That doesn't make any sense because they've never done it. So you have zero clue whether they can do it. And then you get rid of him and you can't replace him. And then the same people like Tremolio that is say, oh, we'll replace him. 8 weeks in, they don't have a returner that can get past the 20-yard line. They're going to say, same people like Tremolio will say, oh, why'd you get rid of Jakeem Grant? We shouldn't have gotten rid of Jakeem Grant. He's a pretty good returner. Because that's what's going to happen. The same people that bitch and complain about one guy will be the same people that will then be bitching and complaining to the team that they got rid of the same guy that they wanted to get rid of 6 months ago. Because that's how people roll. But we seem to have this conversation at least every other day. At least that's what it feels like. Big O, what is your favorite past era in sports radio where you hosted? Oh, the 90s, bro. The 90s. When I started. That first decade was awesome. One of the greatest decades for radio. The money was flowing like crazy. Okay. It was fun. Remember, it started in the 80s, pretty much, sports talk. So maybe mid to late 80s. And once it took off, it became like a fever. And It was something new to all of us. And we had Sports Talk 610 here. That's what it, before QAM started with Sunshine Wireless and all those guys, it was Hank and Bo and Mandich and Zagacki and those guys doing Sports Talk 610 in the evenings. What was it, 6 to 8, I think it was? Something like that in the evening. It was right after Rick and Suds finished, right? Was it Rick and Suds in the afternoon? I think so. At that time, it was Rick and Suds in the afternoon, I want to say. And when Rick and Suds would come off the air at 6, then Sports Talk would start. And that was the only Sports Talk we had. And then came QAM and rest in peace, the Brown Ranger and Jimmy Cephalo and all that stuff. And then they started with that. And then that kind of became a drug for all of us that were sports fans. It's like, wow, we have a place to actually talk sports and listen and hear about, any breaking news and all that kind of stuff and interviews. So it was kind of new. So I would have to say I would have loved to have joined in the late 80s, but I wasn't, in the business. So I started in 91. So there you go. So I would go with the 90s. The 90s were the best. Once we got into the 2000s and the government allowed companies to buy up all the stations, slowly but surely, the radio business got worse and worse. And it's a disgrace now at this point. It's just a joke now. Greer looks like a great defensive evaluator of talent, but what's the verdict on Greer as an offensive evaluator of talent? Do you think that's too early to tell? Yeah, it is too early to tell. And Rosendo, if he hits on Tua, I don't care about anything else. By the way, didn't he find Preston Williams off the scrap heap? I know the kid's had a couple injuries, but it's not like he can't play, right? Myles Gaskin might be a pretty damn good 7th-round pick on offense. Mike Gesicki's turned into a pretty good player. You can't judge the line yet because they're all so young still. Dieter's like the one that we can really – this is the year where you got to judge Dieter now. This is his 3rd year. 3rd, 4th years now for linemen. We got to already say, okay, what are you? 1st year, 2nd year, you're still trying to find yourself. I can understand. Maybe you make it, maybe you don't, whatever. You're not looking good. You look good. But by the time we get to our 3rd and 4th years with linemen, we got to figure it out. So Dieter's the only one we can really start to judge this year. The other guys are still kind of figuring it out, so we can't judge him. I think he's pretty good on offense too, actually. But if he found this, look, as I've said before, if he hit on Flo, and he did, looks like it, and he hits on Greer, what more do you need, dude? I'm sorry. I must have, it's kind of like the thing with Tremolio on we could get 5 other guys to return and replace him. You know what I mean? Okay, so what general manager in the last 25 years in a Dolphins uniform can find a coach and a quarterback? That's it. That's all I've ever wanted, actually. Because if you can find me a coach and you can find me a quarterback, I know you're going to find everything else. So if he hits on Tua, what's there more to say about Greer, dude? It's like over. Seriously. If you hit on Greer and Flo, and let's say a year from now or 2 years from now, we watch Tua blow up now and kicks ass. And Flo, we got a pretty good feel for him in the first 2 years. Like, this dude's got it, right? Because I feel he's got it. But let's just say, for craps and giggles, okay? Let's just say, you hit Tua and you hit Flo. What's there more to say? What GM can do that? And Jimmy couldn't do that. Dave Wanstad couldn't do that. I mean, they were GMs also, right? And then all the other guys that really weren't the GMs, whether it's Cam Cameron or Joe Philbin or whatever, and then you put Jeff Ireland, you put, Spielman, you put whatever, any of the guys that have been here over the years, none of them have been able to find a quarterback and a coach. That's all I need. Once you get me a quarterback and a coach, I'm on my way, dude. You'll find everything else. You'll settle it all. So that's really all you got to do. That's all you got to say about Greer. And by the way, in 2 years, if Tua's balling, if your buddy ever complains about Chris Greer, you are allowed to punch him right in the face. Okay? Just want you to know that. Any discussion you're having with your buddy 2 years from now, and Tua's been balling for 2 years, proving that he's the guy. And if anybody ever says anything negative again about Greer, you are allowed to punch him right in the center of the face. Okay? And he cannot say anything because he said something so stupid and ignorant that he deserves to get punched about 87 times in the face. I just want you to know, because I've passed that law now. So in 2 years, if that happens, knock your buddy out. Okay? Do me a favor. Knock your buddy out. Because that, again, it's kind of back to the Tremolio thing. He takes for granted the returner and thinks that anybody else could do it. Meanwhile, it's not like they always have one here in with the Miami Dolphins, right? Same thing here. If Tua becomes the guy and anybody ever again complains about Greer, deck him. Deck him and deck him hard. That's what I would say. Cause serious damage. Bust a couple of toofuses. Punch him in la nariz. That's it, Ray. Nariz, jaw, whatever. He deserves a nice ass kicking. Pat in Nashville says, late to the party. Camp Truce in Miami over 20 years. Offense always struggles at the beginning of camp. Pass and run. Defense always better at start. Not this year. So it could be a sign, or RD sucks. I don't think either, Pat. I think the Dolphins have a good team. It's just got to give them a little time here. They'll figure everything out. And remember, with Greer, everybody gets better as the year goes on. Big O, once Texas and Oklahoma go to the SEC, is heard that the Pac-12 and the Big 12 commissioners are meeting to merge as one conference. What are your thoughts? I mean, they're both mediocre conferences, so maybe you can make a good conference out of getting them together. At this point, we're kind of headed for a Power 4 conference now. That's kind of what I felt once I heard that news, because the Big 12, that's such a major loss for the Big 12 that they're going to have to do something. So that kind of makes sense. And the Pac-12 is a weak conference as it is. Robert Hidalgo says, you're on a roll today, Houdini. Is that me, or are you talking to somebody else? Big Bob says, we need Tremaine Mack running punts. Remember that? I thought Tremaine Mack almost won a Heisman by himself one year. He was so good. So good, man. God, that guy had a knack for being around the football that was just absolutely sick. Got to give him a lot of credit on that one. What else do we have here? Centenella Cruz. I was thinking the same thing, because that O-line is my biggest concern. Well, it should be. Should be a concern. Yeah, until the young guys turn the corner, you have to be worried about that for sure. That makes sense. Pat in Nashville says, late to the party, Camp Truce. Okay, I got you there. I read that one. What else do I have here? I know I saw something else. Tremoli says, Big O, you don't understand what I said. It's value versus touches. If you load the D-line, it's better than Jakeem. That's substance, not end of discussion. No, dude. Eliminating Jakeem and throwing out those names is not substance, my man. You can't say, like you did earlier, that, what was it? Noah Waddle, Wilson, Holland, Bowen have all been good returners. Flo isn't going to keep a guy that will have 3-4 touches, Jakeem, versus a dime pivotal player. So first of all, you're making it sound like some of these guys will be pivotal, not just on their respective positions, but as returners. And you have no idea. You're assuming that they're going to translate and do what Jakeem does. And that's not realistic, dude. If it was that easy, They would have gotten Jakeem. They would have gotten rid of Jakeem already and had his replacement. We'll keep the short guy for 1 year. We'll go get a taller returner next year. If it was that interchangeable, I think they would do it. But you make it so, what Jakeem can do and the quick twitch and how he can change directions, very few people can do that, man. Very few people can do that. And actually his size, while a detriment at times, could also be a positive too. Because he's so low to the ground. It's one of those guys that can hide behind his blockers. He can use them as shields. He can then use them as an advantage to try to get past defenders because they don't see him, clearly until the last second. And if you see him in the last second, he can shift and dart away from you. You know what I mean? You're not really giving that young man a lot of credit for his greatness as a returner. And I'm not using that loosely. I'm using that because that's what he is. He's a great returner. So, I don't know. Matthew Owen says, sorry, I will do cat. No, you don't have to apologize, man. I just try to remind people, Matthew, that's all. It's all good, man. I'm grateful however you do it. If you do it there on the super chat, obviously what I tell people is the Cash App and the Venmo is the better option. I just want to remind people, but I appreciate it. There's no need to apologize if you use it at all. I am incredibly grateful at that. Ray says, Van Ginkel, great find in the 5th round, I think. Yeah, an amazing find in the 5th round. Yes, Ed Kaplan is doing well. Yes, he is enjoying retirement. He's just not on radio anymore. But he is, last I heard, he's doing all right, actually. So, yes. I haven't talked to Ed in a while. I got to call him. I haven't heard from him in a while. So I should reach out to Easy Ed. Oh, at this point, would you agree Noah was a mistake to take in the 1st round as he's looking like a serious project? We could have taken a stud running back instead. Not at all. Not at all. It's only 1 year. This year hasn't passed. I'm not ready to do anything. It's way too early to give up on. I just told you right now with Dieter. Dieter's headed into his 3rd year. Now is when we really got to see something out of Dieter. So I have a little patience for young players. I give them some time to actually, develop. And it's not like he played a ton last year. He played some last year, didn't play a ton. He needs to play. He needs to make his mistakes. He needs to grow. This is nothing new that a young corner struggles early on to try to find his way. I thought, wasn't Darrelle Revis a struggle early on? I want to say, because people have, they have short memories, and maybe they have bad memories, but I want to say, and I'm pretty sure that even Jets fans thought Revis was a bust either 1 or 2 years in. Seriously. Before he became the guy on the island. Let's see. I think he had 3 interceptions his rookie year. I got to see the other numbers. I don't know if I can extrapolate the other numbers for him. But I want to say that he got burned a lot and did not play well either his first or even second year. He did have 5 his second year, by the way. I need to see his more extensive numbers to see the completion percentage. But I want to say that I remember Jets fans kind of complaining about Revis early in his career, and then he took off and then became just an absolute monster after that. Because, he didn't have a lot of interceptions because they didn't throw his way. But when he had a couple early on, it's because they kept throwing his way and they kept completing. But I'm pretty sure if I could get those next level numbers, and I don't know if they have it here on Pro Football Reference, but I'm pretty sure if you look at the next level numbers and completion percentage and things like that, they weren't very good. So I'm pretty sure of that. I remember taking the phone calls. I remember people complaining about it. What is the NFL overall return average and what is Grant's return average? The delta multiple by average of 6 returns per game is his value to the team. And check out touchdowns too, my man. I don't know what it is. All I know is he's really good at it. And he scores more than most people, if not all, on returns. He's had more touchdowns since he got in the league probably than most returners in the NFL. I'll say 99.5% of the returners since he got in the league. There might be one guy, maybe two, I doubt it, that has more touchdowns and returns than Jakeem Grant. And let's not take and there were a couple where he scored and they called him back. Especially, I remember, I want to say his first year, there were like 2 of them that they called back. Again, it's kind of, underestimating his value. I really hope the Dolphins sign Xavien to a better deal and fix things. Noah Needham will hurt this team. Albert Wilson and Tua have developed nice chemistry. All right. We will find out, but I don't go too much on what's happened in training camp without actual pads. You know what I'm saying? All right, let's take a 2-minute break. We'll be back for hour number 3.
Sports fans love a place with great food, cold drinks, and TVs everywhere. That's why sports fans love Sports Grill and their 7 amazing locations. Check out the Bird Road location at 11481 Southwest 40th Street in the back corner of the West Bird Shopping Center. Sports Grill is also now offering some great employment opportunities. All kinds of positions are now available from kitchen to hosting. Call for more information at 305-485-8845. From wraps to salads to amazingly delicious specialty dishes, Sports Grill is the home to the legendary special grilled wings. Since 1987, Sports Grill, good food, good drink, and good friends.
This is the Big O Show.
For over 16 years, EJDconstruction.com has provided South Florida residents quality craftsmanship, accurate project management, and exceptional service. That's why EJDconstruction.com is an A-rated member of Angie's List and the Better Business Bureau. When you're looking for the right custom home builder for additions or home remodeling, please call my friend Eric at 305-433-4843. That's 305-433-4843 for EJDconstruction.com.
There's no need to drive around South Florida wasting valuable time looking for a new or certified pre-owned Acura. Go to the #1 volume sales dealership in the Southeast United States. Craig Zinn Acura of Pembroke Pines. Purchase with pace and space in a dealership tailored to your needs. From home buying to providing that personal touch. Contact the 2020 Satisfaction Award winner Craig Zinn Acura of Pembroke Pines. 888-776-5123. That's 888-776-5123. Or visit them at 15601 Pines Boulevard in Pembroke Pines.
The viewpoint, statements, or beliefs expressed on the following program by the host, guests, or callers are not necessarily the opinions of FantasyXS.com, Media Group Inc. ownership, management, sponsors, or website. When it comes to South Florida sports teams, very few in the media have witnessed, lived, and covered it like the Big O. Let's start the program dedicated to your favorite South Florida teams with a passion that's unmatched. The Big O Radio Show is on. Here's the Big O.
Hello, hour numero 3. Well, half of third, right? Because technically we'll go into the 4th hour by the time we start with Franco Panizo at the bottom of this hour to talk a little Inter Miami. By the way, nice job by the Marlins. They defeat the Mets last night. They beat the Mutts 5-4. Floro gets his 4th save. Isaín Diaz hits his 3rd home run. Alex Jackson, by the way, gets his 1st home run. Brian De La Cruz went 3 of 4 with a couple of RBIs. Carlos Carrasco, don't call me King Carrasco, is on the mound tonight for the Mets. And then Zach Thompson, of course, for the Marlins, sporting that 2.33 ERA. So they've won 2 in a row against the Mutts. Let's see if they can beat the Mutts one more time. That would be really, really, really nice. Tonight, Orlando City will host Inter Miami, 8 o'clock for that game. I'm probably going to see it late because I'm at my daughter's graduation today, which that should be fun. Tomorrow, we get our Hall of Fame game at 8 o'clock, Cowboys and Steelers. So we get our first look at football. We watch that game for about 2 minutes, and then we say, what are we watching, right? Yeah. Because, like, I only want to watch backups and third and fourth stringers with a Dolphin uniform on, right? I kind of get bored with the other ones. You know, it's funny because I'll tell you I'll watch other summer league games, not just the Heat games, just because I want to see all these other guys. But when it comes to, like, preseason Hall of Fame game, oh, man, that is a terrible game, dude. That is a terrible game. Starters don't even play in that game. It's brutal, dude. Brutal. I don't even know. Do you think Dak is going to play tomorrow night? Coming back from that injury? Well, no, wait a minute. He got another injury, didn't he? That's right. So, yeah, he's probably not, actually. All right, what else do we have here? Miami Heat, they acquired Markieff Morris yesterday. And I got to tell you, for me, the Markieff Morris, again, we're talking about another older player at 31, not a consistent shooter. Now, he is a tough guy, and that's one thing that I will say. This is going to be a blue-collar, lunch pail, get-in-your-face type team. They're going to depend on slowing down people's offenses in order to stay in the game offensively. And Markieff, I think, adds a defensive element to the team. Offensively, I don't know how much more consistent he really can be or reliable, and especially as a three-point shooter, especially in this kind of league. That's why I keep telling you, man, you know you got Duncan Robinson going to hit threes. It's about Tyler Hero, man. It's about Tyler Hero taking a step to get to the all-star status. That's the kind of step you need from him. You need Bam to become a mother effer. Okay? He has to become a son of a bitch on that team. He has to Tom Brady is a son of a bitch. Michael Jordan, a son of a bitch. The really good players, they're a-holes, dude. They're a-holes at times. You think Marino was, he's great to joke around probably away from the field, but on the field, he was a son of a bitch. He didn't care. He wanted to win. Alonzo Mourning, that guy's not fun to be around when you're losing. He doesn't like losing. He hates losing. Bam has to turn into that kind of guy. But the problem is he's such a great young man. He's so nice that he can't do it. Like Dwayne Wade's like, he's the all-American boy, kills you with a smile, and guts your ass out when he has to at the end of a game. Because Dwayne had that all-American look. He had the baby smile and the baby face and all that good stuff. And a super nice kid and all that. But then when he got on the court, he was a mother effer. Dr. J had some of that too. Dr. J was super classy off the field, off the court, all that kind of stuff. But then when he got on the court, he was a mother effer. Magic Johnson, magical smile, magnetic personality, one of the most likable human beings you could ever meet when you see him on camera and talking, because you just got to like Magic. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to dislike Magic. But then when he got on the court, he wasn't having any of that. Larry Bird might have been a bit of a pain in the ass off the court, and he was a son of a bitch on the court. And to me, Bam, I get it, dude, but you need to go look at Wade. All right, you're kind of like Wade. You're the good guy, you're the nice guy, the likable guy, but you need to turn it on when you walk onto the court. And you got to become a mother effer on the court. And I don't know if he can become that. But they're going to need those young legs to help them, not just through the regular season, But by the time you get to the playoffs, and if you want to make a deep run, they're going to need the young legs from that engine to kind of carry some of the horsepower, because you may not have the same horsepower anymore in late May and June with a Jimmy Butler, with, a Kyle Lowry. These are older players that have some mileage on them. That's why I keep telling you. And Markieff Morris, I like him as a tough nose, hard nose, like role player, but I don't look at him like a savior in any way, shape, or form. He's just like a decent player to have off the bench, and it's going to be more about defense than offense for him. So I know Jimmy Butler's going to play defense. I know Kyle Lowry's going to play defense. I know Bam's going to play defense. I know PJ Tucker's going to play defense, but they're going to need the explosive side of the offense. They don't have enough offense. And some of these guys that I just talked about, they're not good enough shooting. That's why Duncan has got to be lights out. And I can count on Duncan to score a lot, but Tyler is the guy. Tyler needs to be the other young guy that creates havoc out there. And then Bam has to become an SOB. I don't know how you do it. I don't know if you can. Do we know of a player that was kind of like Bam on any sport and then became a son of a bitch? A guy that we looked at and was so nice and carried himself so well and was likable, and you want him as your son, right? Because, what father would not be proud of the way Bam carries himself, right? It's impossible. So do you remember a guy that was like that was really nice the first couple of years and then finally figured it out, the light went on, and that was the difference in his? I'm trying to remember if there's a guy like that we said in the past, either locally or in another team. And we said, good guy, man, good player, damn right, but he needs a little bit of an edge, and he doesn't have it, and somehow he found the edge. Like Kevin Durant was always a great player. Now he became an asshole, but it had nothing to do with on the court. He was always great. Even when he was the nicest kid with his backpack going to press conferences and the ice cream cone on his thing, he was always going to gut your ass out as a player. And then he just became an asshole. I'm talking about the guy that needed to become an asshole to give himself an edge on his sport. Is there a guy? Kevin Garnett? No, I thought Kevin Garnett was that in Minnesota, dude. He didn't need to be. I get it. In Boston, he became kind of a jerk, but he was a hell of a player in Minnesota, dude. He just didn't have enough around him in Minnesota. That's all. I think Kevin Garnett had, that streak in him from the get-go. I don't remember that. Alonzo Mourning always was. I watched him in Georgetown, dude. Alonzo Mourning, if I remember correctly, came out of high school practicing with the Olympic team. Alonzo Mourning was a son of a bitch the entire time. That never changed. That's definitely not one. Let's see what else. We need a power forward to help Bam. He's alone with no help. Chris, limitations, bro. They have limitations in money. They have limitations in resources. So they don't have the cap space. They have no picks whatsoever. The Heat have put themselves in a really difficult position in that sense. So they can only do what they could settle for, pretty much. And I think they did the best that they can do. And they're going to have some holes in the way they're building this team, whether it's age or lack of positioning, that they need a power forward. I'm not arguing with you that they need one. I know they need one. You are right. I'm just telling you the Heat just didn't have a lot of flexibility. They have very limited. They have limited to no resources. And that's the problem. So, yeah, it doesn't fly. Jimmy Butler, I think, always had a nasty streak in him. He just had to develop his game because he was a defensive guy. So he was always a son of a bitch. Yeah, I think Jimmy just had to improve his game, not his attitude, not his nastiness, not his will. That has nothing to do with it. Alan Ogg. You're bringing up the late, great Alan Ogg. And I'm having a little fun. Okay, but I was a season ticket holder in those early years of Alan Ogg. And I remember whenever there was those few games that was a blowout, and Miami had, because I say few games because, first couple of years was kind of tough. But whenever, they had a lead at the end of a game that was really comfortable, we would start chanting for Alan Ogg. And the Ogster would come out and the place would go crazy and all of that. That was fun. I got to say, those early teams, I get it. They had their struggles and they had to learn how to win and finally get to the playoffs and all that kind of stuff. But man, we had a lot of fun with those teams early on. We did. It was because it was so new and everything. So all these experiences were the first times and things like that. So we were experiencing it as a community. I had a really good time going to those games with my then girlfriend, now wife. But yeah, I do remember that. That was good. That was definitely a lot of fun. Kobe Bryant, I think, always had it, man. Again, just had to improve his game. But I think he always had that nasty streak in him. Hale, with your connections with the Dolphins, can you get Dan Marino to make an appearance on the postgame show? No. I have his number too. But no, I don't think so. Dan doesn't do a lot, man. He's not so gung-ho on it, but I know Dan. He's always really nice to me, always has been. But, it's just he doesn't do a lot, bro. He'll go on with Joe every once in a while, but that's about it. It's just not one of his things. He's not a big fan, not of me personally, because he has nothing against, he can't have anything against me because he and I have always gotten along great. He knows I'm an enormous supporter of his. So, that has nothing to do with it. But it's, look, I got to be honest. I'm not trying. Maybe I could make it happen. I don't know, but I almost feel like I don't want to bother him with it. You know what I mean? Because I know that he's not the biggest fan of doing this kind of stuff, So, let's see. Afternoon, Fins fans. Lisa Rose says, I was at the 100th like today. Nice. We crossed 100. I love it. If I could get a picture with Dan Marino, that's on my bucket list. Well, John, I would tell you this. If there are no restrictions next year, okay, and just give you a little tip. If there are no restrictions next year, go to Mobile, Alabama. Because he's going there now with the Dolphins, and he goes for a couple of days. And Mobile it's pretty amazing because everybody that's anybody in the NFL is there, and they're just walking around. This is 30 years, and I've been doing it for a little over 20, going to the Senior Bowl, and I've told you guys this like a ton of times that you can go to the Senior Bowl, and if you work it, you're going to run into famous people in restaurants, bars, right around the team hotel. You hang around all those places, the practice field, this, that. You're going to have an opportunity and you're going to run into famous people in the NFL. And then we can mention the young players that are there in the Senior Bowl, that those are future stars. You can meet some of those too. They have autograph sessions. They have all kinds of stuff. I'm just saying that if you're a hardcore football fan, the Senior Bowl is a fantastic experience. I'm just telling you. It's something that you go to Ruth Chris, in the early evening, and half that place is NFL people. I'm just telling you, plenty of the seafood restaurants that are there, whether it's Winsel's or something else, you'll find at Winsel's, after practice is done, 120 NFL people there. I'm not joking. 120. GMs, coaches, scouts, ex-players that are working on other teams, and you'll recognize them right away, all that kind of stuff. I've been telling you this for 2 decades now, that the Senior Bowl, if you're a hardcore football fan, it's one of the best experiences for a hardcore football fan. You go there for the whole week, and you go through all the different events that they have going on, and then you go to the game, and the game atmosphere is so freaking awesome. I'm just telling you, it's one of those things. Lisa says, met Dan on several occasions, nice guy, but not big on signing if lots of people are around. He feels that if he starts with one person, then it blows up, but very cool if it's in a low-key setting. I can tell you've met him, Lisa. I can tell you've met him, because he's not big on that, man. He's just kind of a private guy. You know, if you catch him somewhere, like Lisa says, it's a tight setting. It's only you and him, or you and 2 friends, and you meet him, and it's somewhere away from people. Yeah, he's cool, but he's not the most comfortable person doing all that kind of stuff. That's just how people are sometimes. Everybody's a little different. Let's see. Omar says, offsides from Shaquem Griffin motivates Brissett to air it out, and Allen Hurns catches a deep 45-yard pass for a touchdown. Sam Egwavon had a sack of Sinnett. Rookie Gerald Dokes drops a simple one from Brissett, followed by another drop by Lynn Bowden. Lynn Bowden Jr. drops an easy crosser. Okay, there you go. Javon Holland picks off Tua on a deep pass intended for Albert Wilson. Was just a bad overthrow. Blitz packages rattling Tua is what Omar puts. I don't think anything rattles Tua. I think you either make a good play or a bad play. I don't think that kid gets rattled. I watched them walk into the national championship game and win. There's no rattling in Tua. I think he either succeeds or he fails like the rest of us. Tua's interception streak ended with Holland's pick in Holland's first day as first-team safety. Okay. So there you go. Dolphins dialing up blitz packages, and Tua sacked on the second straight play by Brendan Scarlett. This time the coaches blow the whistle before Tua throws the ball. Let's see, what else do we have here? Jalen Waddle just returned the first kickoff of the very heavy special teams practice. There you go. Should have included earlier linebacker Jalen Phillips also not practicing today. Yes, we know that. So there you go. Those are some of the things going on around camp. If you have any questions, by the way, you can send them in. Okay. Let's see if I could get, let me see Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. What do you think about the Heat moves? Ronald, listen to the first half hour of the show yesterday. Okay. That you're better off there. I'm not going to repeat everything, but it's all there, man. There are 2 different segments from that first half hour that are up, or you can just listen to the straight half hour. And then you can actually listen to my half hour and then listen to Ira Winderman talk about it also from yesterday's show. So I suggest you go there, my friend, and it'll all be there. You know how it is on the show. We don't really, or maybe you don't, Ronald, we don't really continue to repeat everything we've talked about. We move on and give you, new material that we want to talk about. Let's see. At training camp, Tua has been amazing despite an interception. Nobody's going to go mistake-free, bro. You know what I mean? It's all good. He's going to be fine. Oh, that's it. Lynn is out. I don't know what that means, Steven. What do you mean Lynn is out? Are you talking about Lynn Bowden? Because you put L-I-N. So I'm not sure what you're talking about. You got to be a little bit more clear on that one, Steven. You got me lost a little bit. I apologize, but I'm not picking up on what you're saying. I would give my 2 kidneys and another organ just to take a picture with Dan Marino. Big O, sir, I think it benefits Tua that our defense is that awesome. Oh, for sure. For sure. Definitely. Oh, Jeremy Lin. Is that what you're talking? Jeremy Lin? What are we talking about? Are we going back to the son of a bitch conversation? Is that what that is? Too many receivers to drop one pass. LOL. Paul Warfield's still the best receiver in Dolphin history. Probably. Yeah. Yeah, it's Warfield 1, not Duper, Clayton 2, probably. Yeah. I would go with that. If somebody wanted to tell me Mark Clayton was number 1, we could have that discussion. I can't necessarily call you crazy or that you're wrong. Paul Warfield was amazing. So was Mark Clayton, bro. Mark Clayton was pretty damn special. He was fun, man. He was one of those dudes you definitely want to enjoy. All right, let me see. What else do we have here that I wanted to talk about? Let's see. Kemba Walker goes to the Knicks, the often injured one at this point. I know he's from New York, so he gets to return to his home city, home state, but I don't find it to be much of a move. The Knicks will be a team fighting with Chicago and others for a 7 and 8 seed, something like that in the playoffs. But hey, they're at least fighting for a playoff spot. So that's actually a good thing for the New York Knicks. Let's see, what else do we have? Have you seen the Raiders, what's gone on? They've had 3 players already retire from camp. And you think about it. So 3 guys have retired in the Raiders camp, and you're wondering, well, what the hell is going on, right? So first of all, Theo Riddick, who is a pass-catching running back, played most of his career with the Detroit Lions. A good pass-catching back, by the way. Like a really good one, like excellent hands. I think you guys remember a game against the Lions that Theo caught a touchdown, a really important touchdown at the end of a game against Miami. But anyway, Riddick ends up getting a COVID positive test, and that forced him to retire. He didn't want to deal with it anymore. He wanted to protect his health over that. Then a linebacker named James Oluwalu, who's 26 years old, also ended up retiring, not because of COVID. And then yesterday, Sam Young, former Dolphin offensive tackle, played with the Rams also, played with several teams. Not really a player, let's just say. He's a body that you have in camp. He's you hope at times he could be serviceable as a tackle. We had him here in Miami. He was not impressive by any stretch whatsoever, but he retired also, and he's 34 years old. But that's 3 players. And I just keep thinking about that environment that John Gruden has created. And I when I remember watching the Hard Knocks a couple years ago, it was just so cheesy and corny watching him. What was that saying he had? Like, if you're with me, pound on the table or whatever. It was like some stupid ass thing that he would do. And he did it even in the coach's room and everything else. And I just think John Gruden is one of the best scam artists I've ever seen in my life. Okay? He's just a character making those silly faces of his and the whole Chucky thing and all that kind of stuff. And I know things went his way in Tampa. He was gifted a generational defense. And to his credit, he got a couple of offensive pieces to kind of finish off the offense. And he was able to, get it done. Now, that's handing him a generational defense and a couple of pieces already on offense that all he needed was to find a couple of other pieces on offense to kind of complete it. But if it's up to him to build the whole team, then he has a problem, and he can't. Like with the Raiders, he wasn't picking the talent. That was the old man in those days. The old man was in charge. No coach was in charge in those days. It was all Al and his staff doing everything. So that team that got to, I think the Super Bowl, they lost the Super Bowl, and they've got to an AFC Championship game also. that team was basically built by Al Davis. And then he goes to Tampa, and like I said, he's gifted something, and he was able to finish it. But then after that, as the years went on, that team took another step back and another step back and another step back. It never got any better. He never was able to maintain what he had at that moment. There was a decline every single year under John Gruden. And then he goes to ESPN for several years, and he's doing that quarterback show when he's never developed a quarterback in his entire life. So how in the hell is he supposed to actually, how are we supposed to believe that this guy's a quarterback guru when he's never, ever actually, developed a quarterback on his own? And so now the Raiders, who obviously aren't led by a lot of intelligence. I mean, look at Mark Davis. That just the haircut alone is pretty much an indictment on him, but you give him $100 million contract. Any of you out there that are watching, are you a Raiders fan? Is there anybody that's on the chat board right now, a Raiders fan? If you're listening to the podcast, are you a Raiders fan? And if you are you sick to your stomach or something by now? Have you figured it out? Because I know some of you Raiders fans, you got all pumped up about Chucky. Meanwhile, I was laughing the entire time about Chucky. I just wonder. Just one of those things. All right, give me 60 seconds. We're going to talk to Franco Panizo when we come back. We'll get into Inter Miami. They will take on Orlando City. We switch gears. We go from football to football. That's next.
Sports fans love a place with great food, cold drinks, and TVs everywhere. That's why sports fans love Sports Grill and their 7 amazing locations. Check out the Bird Road location at 11481 Southwest 40th Street in the back corner of the West Bird Shopping Center. Sports Grill is also now offering some great employment opportunities. All kinds of positions are now available from kitchen to hosting. Call for more information at 305-485-8845. From wraps to salads to amazingly delicious specialty dishes, Sports Grill is the home to the legendary special grilled wings. Since 1987, Sports Grill, good food, good drink, and good friends.
This is the Big O Show.
For over 16 years, EJDconstruction.com has provided South Florida residents quality craftsmanship, accurate project management, and exceptional service. That's why EJDconstruction.com is an A-rated member of Angie's List and the Better Business Bureau. When you're looking for the right custom home builder for additions or home remodeling, please call my friend Eric at 305-433-4843. That's 305-433-4843 for EJDconstruction.com.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All righty, we are back. Love it. You got some feedback going on there, Franco? What's going on?
I don't know. I have my headphones on.
Okay. All right. Welcome aboard. We're going to talk a little Inter Miami as the boys are coming off a draw and they're coming off a win now. And so has the tide turned? Are they playing better football? Or did the ball just bounce their way? We're going to find out more with Franco Panizo, of course, from Miami Total Football. Make sure you follow also on Twitter at Miami Total Football. More importantly, subscribe to the podcast. He does an excellent job of going over everything that's going on in the world of Inter Miami. Tonight, 8 o'clock, they're in Orlando to take on Orlando City. And Franco, first of all, good afternoon, my friend. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good. I was planning to go to Orlando tonight, but I played pickup on Monday with some friends in Miami. Aggravated this lower back injury that I have that pops up from time to time. And I don't think I can make it 6 hours round trip. So I'm going to take it in from home, I think, unless I have a quick sudden urge to just go and deal with the pain. But other than that, I'm good. Inter Miami got back to winning ways this weekend. So there's been some good things to talk about rather than just the negative, because that's obviously been how this season has gone for the most part.
Yeah, and by the way, you're way too young to have back. An old fart like me can have back issues, but a young stud like you, come on.
I'm not that young anymore. I'm not that. I look younger than I am. I'm not that young anymore.
All right, so your assessment of the last two games, they picked up the draw, they picked up the win. I kind of look at it as gritty efforts, actually, but I don't know how you look at the whole situation. So as you're breaking down the improved play, I guess, in the last two games, how would you describe it?
So it has been improved from what it was from, obviously that 7-game winless run, or it was 6-game losing streak, 7-game winless run with the tie. It's been better in terms of the effort and at times the way that they can control the game and dictate the tempo, but still not for enough time throughout the course of the game. They don't sustain that level over the course of the match. Obviously, it's a game with two teams, and the other team's going to have its moments as well. But the goal is to try to sustain that high level for as long as possible. It gives you better odds to win, better chances to win. This last game that they won came down to a coaching change, a tactical switch in the game that changed the course of the match. So, kudos to Phil Neville for that. And the ball just happened to bounce their way this time too. Because if even with through the run of play over the course of the 90 minutes, it's a pretty even game, all things considered. Montreal could have taken a 2-1 lead at one point. Like, just from the run of play, there's not signs that tell you that it's vastly improved. It's just, again, moments here and there where they've started to piece together some better soccer. But again, I don't know if that's going to be enough for the rest of the season.
Let me start from the back. Are you impressed with Marsman?
Yes. I like what I've seen. So far. It's early. And his first game was a 5-0 defeat, but I like what I've seen from him. More of a commanding presence at the back, more sure in his decisions. Like they say in Spanish, that más seguridad, which doesn't really translate to English, that he gives you more security, but you just feel like there's more of a presence with him there. More decisive decisions in the way he comes off to collect the ball or punch the ball. He's also much, much better than John McCarthy with his feet. Very good with his distribution. So I think he's been good so far. And I think once I said this to someone last week, maybe at practice, I think with more time, the more comfortable he gets in that locker room, in the team, I think he can become a lead figure for this team. I think just from what I've seen from him and the interactions we've had with him, the couple of times he's done press conferences, I think his personality will lend to that. So I think at some point, don't be surprised if he's one of the leaders of this team in the not too distant future.
Your assessment of the guys in front of him right now.
So the defense has been, at one point this season, I said it was the strength of the team. I would still say that it's the strength of the team. I would still say that that's the part of the team that's out of the three lines or the three parts of the team, defense, midfield, and forwards, the attack. I still think the defense is probably the best right now. Now, that said, they've had their issues. I think part of it, this is just my opinion, is that Phil Neville has done a lot of tinkering, a lot of changing formations, partnerships. So there's not been a real understanding between, or a clear understanding, or clear enough understanding between players at certain times. They've also not been able to hold on to the ball in the midfield for large stretches of the season. That leads to other teams having more of the ball and more attacks, and then that challenges your defense that much more. And, enough pressure can burst the pipes. So you've seen them have their issues. I wouldn't say the defense is exceptional or incredible by any means, but I think if you ask me what I think has been the best line on Inter Miami this season, I would say the defense probably has been to this point.
What has been Neville's best move so far in the last couple of games that you've agree with or impressed with?
So there's two, but if you're just asking me for one, I think it was.
Give me both. I
think bringing Federico Higuaín back into the lineup was a good move. I think that's. If you watch Federico Higuaín with this team, he gives them more of an ability to build out, better in possession, quicker with his decisions, has a lot of movement in terms of, he's obviously a 10, so he starts in the middle, but he drifts out to the right and left. He looks for the ball often. He shows for the ball. He gives players passing options. And when he receives the ball, he moves it very quickly. There was one sequence in the last game where he touches it twice in the sequence. They start in the back and they try to build up. And he touches it twice with clever, nice, great technical back heels that help Inter Miami move the ball from the defensive zone to the attacking zone. And that's stuff that they haven't really had much of this season. So I think bringing him back into the starting lineup has been helpful. He hasn't done a whole lot of creating thus far, but I have my reasons for that that I think go beyond him.
The people he's sending it to aren't really creative, is what you're saying.
No, I mean, listen, he's the most creative player. You could maybe say Gonzalo is creative too now at this point in his career, but he has nobody.
Robbie has a little bit too in him.
Robbie's not a creator. Robbie's a dribbler that
right.
cut back on this. Right, but that's not a creator. Creator is someone that makes the pass.
Oh, you're creating the score. I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we haven't seen him do a lot of that, Federico. We had, especially when he was with the Columbus Crew in MLS. I think part of what's happening is that Inter Miami doesn't have players that like to make those runs in behind, be it diagonals, runs over the back shoulder of defenders, runs into space. So I think that's limiting Federico Higuaín's ability to play make. I don't know if that's also a coaching decision, if Phil Neville prefers them to have the ball at their feet rather than running into space. But again, I think Federico overall has been a plus.
He does stuff that no one else can do on the damn team. Actually, he's the only life they have in the midfield. Actually, right now. I mean, is there anybody else that can bring life to the midfield on that team? Really, honestly.
I mean, if you're talking about attacking, and then moving the ball, I mean, no. But if you're just talking about midfield, because there's different type of midfielders. There's
I got you.
Ones, there's the attacking ones.
No, I'm talking about attacking. I'm talking about offensive.
Attacking wise, no. I mean, there's you have Rodolfo Pizarro should be that guy, but he's not. No. And I have questions about how happy he is now at this point. Like, this is just my observation. Nothing I've really heard. Just watching him play with Mexico, if it's still, he looks like it shows a level of apathy that is kind of concerning. Last year at this point, before he kind of hit this dip, you would see him post a lot on social media, him working out, him shirtless, looked like a really happy person in the midst of the peak of the pandemic when you were, mostly forced to stay at home. And now this year, you barely see him post on social media. You don't see him play with this joy or this happiness. There was a moment, if I don't know if you watched the CONCACAF Gold Cup in the semifinals, he came onto that game and delivered the game-winning assist in the 99th minute, right before they were about to go to extra time with Mexico with Canada. And Mexico explodes into scenes of ecstasy, the players, the fans in the stands. And Rodolfo Pizarro, all he did was lift up his arm and go like this. That to me says something about, where his level of happiness is. Now that could be just making too much out of it. Maybe he was tired, whatever, but I think
maybe his coach isn't around either anymore. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I think something happened. I think something along the way during his stay in South Florida, something happened to him. Be there the compilation of things and things not working on the field, and then pressure, and then Mexico and things not going well there. I don't know if it was that or something else, but I feel like something along the way has impacted him and he's kind of lost his joy. I think even Phil Neville kind of alluded to it or mentioned it very slightly a couple of weeks ago when he said that, Pizarro had been playing with a smile again or with a sparkle in his eye that he hadn't been having. So I think, again, just my thoughts, I think that there's something to that element here because Pizarro obviously doesn't look anywhere like the player that he's expected to be or that he was before. And just to quickly give you the second thing that you asked me, the biggest coaching decision, because I've kind of gone off track from there. I wrote it this week. I've said it this week. Phil Neville changed the game for the better for Inter Miami in the 66th minute of this last game. And he won the game for Inter Miami. Gonzalo Higuaín scored the goal, but it was Phil Neville's tactical change that won the game for Inter Miami because Inter Miami came out in the regular 4-2-3-1. Like I said, they work in moments when they could build up or knit together attacking sequences. But again, they still had problems in the final third creating quality chances. And they were getting carved open by CF Montreal on a few occasions because Montreal was moving the ball pretty well with some good combination play, some quick, accurate, sharp passes. And that was giving Inter Miami trouble. So Phil Neville decides to put in Blaise Matuidi. In the moment, I was wasn't sold on the move, but it proved to be a stroke of genius because what he did now, like I'll try to paint it with my fingers here. The 3 and the 2 in the midfield, this midfield triangle right here, he inverted that. So instead of having a number 10, he had 2 8s, which were Ulloa and Blaise Matuidi, and Gregory was now the tip of the triangle, but it was upside down, right? So what that did was just give Inter Miami more bodies in the middle of the field. So I'll do it like that so you can picture it like that. Right. And that gave them more bodies in the middle of the field, and CF Montreal could no longer build up as easily because there's more bodies, there's more players, they're clogging up spaces. And it's so much so that if you watch the broadcast in the 71st minute, Wilfred Nancy, CF Montreal's head coach, looks away from the action, goes to his little white tactical board that I guess he had on the sidelines, and he has his little pieces on there, and he started looking for answers. I posted a picture of it on Twitter, on Miami Total Football's Instagram account as well. He literally is like looking for answers because Phil Neville had pulled off a move that took control away from CF Montreal. And not only did it take control away from CF Montreal and more into Inter Miami's favor, it leads to the game-winning goal because CF Montreal's players were confused how to build out. Remember, this move comes in the 66th minute. Gonzalo Higuain's game-winning goal comes off a high press where the center back gets kind of confused on the ball, loses it. Good pressing by Robbie Robinson and Gregory. Gonzalo Higuain gets on the end of it and scores. So 3 minutes after that change happened, Inter Miami finds the game-winning goal, and then they just hold on for the victory the rest of the way. So that's been Phil Neville's best coaching move this season, I think.
Should we look at the success they've had in the last 2 games with the tie and then the win, that guys are buying more into what Phil Neville is selling, or is it just maybe things fell into place? How do we look at this?
It's a good question. I don't know. I would have to say I think the jury's still out. I think the jury's still out because they got a draw against the Philly team that's pretty good, and then they beat Montreal. Those are good results.
Who kicked their ass the last time? Made them look really bad, actually.
Those are good results.
They played much better defense in this game than they did the first time around against Montreal, which was embarrassing.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. This was a much better performance, although I still have
Montreal carved them up in that first game. Remember that?
Yeah, of course. That was the first game.
Up. I was like, wow, dude, they were sinister. Especially in that second half. It was just, oh man, it was ugly. And I got to give them some love, dude. They at least, whatever defense they played, they slowed them completely down compared to what they did in the last game. So again, that might be credit to Neville. So are people buying into Neville now?
Again, I think the jury's still out on it. I think what has helped them, and I think it's kind of gone under the radar a bit, and I think it deserves a little more talking point, is Victor Ulloa in the middle of the field there next to Gregory. With Blaise Matuidi coming out, I think that has strengthened Inter Miami or solidified them defensively and strengthened their midfield because Blaise Matuidi is obviously more talented and more decorated than Victor Ulloa, who's been an MLS player his whole career. Blaise Matuidi's won a World Cup, played at some of the biggest clubs in the world, in Europe, but he has not shown that level with Inter Miami by and large. He's had lapses in concentration that have cost goals. He has had defensive issues. And with Victor Ulloa back in there, Victor Ulloa has been quietly, he's not someone that wows you. He's not sexy, not a big name, but he's done his job almost to perfection. In terms of what Phil asks of him to do, moves the ball side to side, covers ground, breaks things up. He's done an exceptional job. I honestly think he was the best player in this last game. Gonzalo Higuain gets the plaudits and the spotlight because he's the goal scorer and he scored 2 goals. But Victor Ulloa, I think from minute 1 to minute 90, had a very complete performance. I gave him the highest grade in my player ratings. So keep an eye on him tonight. He'll be important for Inter Miami because with him in there and with Gregory next to him, they're able to have better spells of possession and control the ball, and that's allowed them to have better performances as well because they also don't have those defensive issues that cost them goals. So actually, we asked Phil about him on Monday about Victor Ulloa, and he said flat out something that he and a lot of coaches don't tend to do, but he tipped his hand and he was like, Victor Ulloa will start on Wednesday because he's played that well, and he said, I think Victor Ulloa has gotten better, And I think Victor Ulloa makes the players around him better. And that's the biggest compliment I can give any player. That's what Phil Neville said on Monday. So keep an eye on Victor Ulloa. Maybe he goes out there today and has a terrible performance, but based on the last few games, he's quietly been one of Inter Miami's better players. I know fans might hear this and might be like, what is he talking about? Because the name doesn't pop out on the stat sheet. He's not someone that scores goals, doesn't necessarily give assists. But his effort is there. And again, just his role, his function within the team, what he's asked to do, he does it too. He's been doing it very, very well. And also of note, that penalty kick, the equalizing penalty kick that sparks the comeback that comes in the 46th minute of the game, the first minute of the second half. It comes off a play where the ball's being cleared out by CF Montreal, and Victor Ulloa, facing away from goal, doesn't give up on the play and just kicks the ball backwards into the goal, just hopefully hitting it. And it falls to Gonzalo Higuain, just happens to follow Gonzalo Higuain. He tries to dribble, he falls. Federico gets the ball, he gets tripped, penalty kick, equalizing goal. So that starts with Victor Ulloa. So he doesn't get you the assists or the goals, but his effort is there, and we saw it, especially in this last game. He was vital to that equalizing goal.
Yeah, it's that's why sometimes I feel like have things kind of fallen their way, because that was kind of a lucky pass that fell in the right place, and he was able to finish it. And then Robbie's goal, in the draw, it was stopped basically, but he didn't get a good hand on it, and it was able to sneak in and stuff. So things have gone their way.
Yeah, the ball has bounced their way.
The ball has bounced, which by the way, there's a lot of times we could talk in the first month.
Right.
It did not bounce at all.
They were due. They were due for the ball to bounce their way.
Yeah, they were due.
That's why when you ask me, do I think Phil Neville has gotten the guys to buy in? I still think the jury's out. I think the ball has bounced their. They've improved their performances, absolutely, but I don't think the improvements have been that great. I think the ball just happened to bounce their way finally in this time, and it's bound to happen over the course of a season. Ball sometimes doesn't bounce your way. You'll lose a game. Ball will bounce your way sometimes, and you'll win a game. And in this one, it bounced the right way, because even Federico Higuain's penalty kick, there's contact there, absolutely, but he sells it. Another referee might not point to the spot immediately. Another referee might take it to VAR and then say, there's not enough contact. But this time, the decisions went their way, the bounces went their way, and they were able to get the victory as a result. Because even Gonzalo Higuain's game-winning goal, he shoots it and the goalkeeper gets a hand to it. It looked like he was going out for a corner kick. I actually turned away, looked at my computer, was typing away in the press box. Phil Neville said after the game, he looked away because he thought it was going out for a corner kick. So, the ball just happens to get looped into the goal after the goalkeeper gets a hand to it. So the bounces did go their way this time. But again, they'll even out over the course of the season, or that's what's the belief is normally. But they're going to need to improve. They're going to need to improve still, because they're not going to get lucky bounces the majority of the rest of the way, I imagine.
Inter Miami fans, make sure you subscribe to Miami Total Football. Great podcast, great information always from Franco Panizo. Follow him on Twitter at Franco Panizo. I let you go with this. Give me a preview. What are we watching tonight? Miami is on the road. This is not going to be easy for them.
I think they have more confidence. I think they have more belief. So I think they'll show better. But against Orlando, which they've had their issues lately, but they're still a very good team. Nani has scored 3 goals in 5 matches against Inter Miami, dating back to last year. So I say a 3-1 loss for Inter Miami tonight. But we'll see. We'll see how they do. If they can perform and get even a point out of this one, I think that'd be a big statement and a big confidence booster, because it would show that, hey, look, we've not only gotten a couple of results at home, we're going to start doing it away from home and against some of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. A result tonight would go a long way, whether it's a draw or a win, would go a long way. I think it would make a statement and give them that much more confidence. So, but I don't see that happening. We'll see.
See it on the screen. Follow him on Twitter at Franco Panizo. Franco, enjoy the game tonight, my brother. Thank you for taking some time and dropping some knowledge. Always appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. See you soon.
You got it. There you go. Franco Panizo. Good stuff as always. Appreciate him joining us and talking a little Inter Miami football. Nothing wrong with talking a little Inter Miami football here on the program. Let's hope they can get the win overall, man. That would be really, really nice. What else do we have going on? We got the Big 12 and the Pac-12 talking about a partnership, reportedly. Let's see. Atlanta ends up signing John Collins to a 5-year, $125 million deal. 23-year-old. Man, would have been nice to get the South Florida kid to sign here. But again, Miami just didn't have the resources to acquire something like that. Let's see. What else do I have here? I told you about Phillip Rivers not ruling out coming back, which would be an absolute disaster if he does. What else do we have that I saw? Can you imagine having a fight at Dolphins camp and Tua's in the bottom of the pile? Like this whole thing with Daniel Jones yesterday. And listen, I'm not much of a Daniel Jones guy. I don't believe in him much. But if you're the quarterback, dude, stay away from fights and any kind of collisions. Watching Gus Frerotte headbutt the wall and just, there's certain times that quarterbacks have been really dumb. Daniel Jones, that was definitely a moment. Robert Triana, thank you, sir, for giving us a little love on the super chat. He says, I'm catching up. That's why I keep it here, brother. Sports, COVID, crypto, life, love it. Thank you, Robert. Appreciate you, sir. Not that I really want to talk COVID at times. You know what I'm saying? I really don't want to do that at times. It crosses over, man. What am I going to do? So it is what it is. Dougie Fresh says, Gruden's QB camp was Miss Cleo on football. Here's the show. 1, get a QB in the room with a dry erase board. 2, sit in a chair and ask the QB to drop a play. 3, look into the camera and say, wow. Done. That's it. Yeah, that was basically the talent. Willie says, love you, Big O. Eating lunch on to Cincinnati. There we go. Mike No-Go Zone says, go Inter. Let's see. Daniel Jones is trash. Irving Figueroa says, I'm with you. I'm not a Daniel Jones fan at all. I saw him at the Senior Bowl and I was just not impressed. And watching him at Duke, I never saw a starter. Maybe he turns into one and I'm 1,000% wrong and that's fine. I can live with it. But I got to tell you something. That is one dude that I just never bought into. Never thought that he could be the guy. Remember, folks, don't forget to smash the hell out of the like button. Okay, please. Smash the like button, subscribe, share it all. New York Giants fan here. I saw the brawl as a character-building occurrence. I don't know, man. How do you build character getting your quarterback getting his ass kicked? I don't know about that, man. I mean, the only quarterback I could see could handle being at the bottom of the pile is maybe Cam Newton because he's such a big dude. But I don't, even Cam Newton, I don't want to see any quarterback in the bottom of the pile. If I'm a Giants fan, that part is disturbing. I mean, it's disturbing as it is that you've got Daniel Jones. But then it's even more disturbing that the guy you don't think can ever be the guy, but just in case he might be the guy, I don't want him getting injured in the pile. I just found that funny that would happen. FSU, by the way, has denied that they are trying to go to the SEC. So they said there's zero truth about that. So that report of FSU and Clemson, not accurate. Okay. Is there a salary cap in the MLS? If so, how close to the limit is? Oh, Miami's over. They're at the limit. They have no space. And although the international guys don't count against your cap. So Higuain, Pizarro and Matuidi aren't counting against your cap. We'll find out if Moss wants to really improve. He's going to have to do something that he probably doesn't want to do, because there's a reason how billionaires become billionaires, because they make really good decisions business-wise, and they don't like making, decisions that will cost them money. And that's why they're usually billionaires. But in their case, you're going to have to swallow some money, because if you really want to be good, Pizarro's untradeable pretty much at the salary that he has, and so is Matuidi. Nobody's going to pay those salaries, so you're going to have to trade him for practically nothing, or cut him outright and just swallow the salary that's left. because then you can go get 2 more DPs and get 2 guys that are hopefully way better than these guys and actually add something to the team and help Higuain. As much as Higuain has been, a bit of a disappointment because he doesn't score at the clip that you're paying him to score, you want him to score, I can't blame everything on Higuain, man. I just can't. He's had his moments where he should have closed out some of these plays, but I just feel like they have failed to put around him what he needs in order to excel. So I'm not ready to blame Higuain or anything like that. It's like Neville. I could disagree with some things with Neville, but in the end, he inherited all this stuff. The man's got to be given an opportunity to kind of weed all that stuff out and get his own team so you can measure him. You know what I mean? Let's see what else. I don't think there's anything there I see on the chat board. I don't think I have anything else. I do want to thank Matt Owen and Robert Triana. Appreciate you guys sending in a little love on the super chat. Very kind of you all out there. Let's see, what else do I have here? Anything on the Big O Radio Show at yahoo.com? Because remember, you guys can reach out to us at Big O Radio Show at yahoo.com. That's another way to reach out to the program. We are going to wrap it up here on the show. We thank all of you out there as always. Appreciate you guys for supporting us every single day. Don't forget to smash the hell out of that like button if you haven't before you leave. Please subscribe to the program on the podcast, on YouTube, share the link, visit our sponsors. We thank Alan Poupart. We thank Franco Panizzo. We thank Ira Winderman and Clay Ferraro. We got more guests tomorrow. Ruthie Polinsky is going to join us tomorrow. We'll have some other guests also. We'll get ready for a big Friday also tomorrow. It's Thursday, so we're only a day away from the end of the week. Again, you all be safe out there. Much love. Enjoy Marlins baseball. Enjoy Inter Miami. We will see you tomorrow. Same time, same place, same bat channel.
When you need your warehouse looking good while staying efficient, there's only one place to find the finest racks in the business. Pallet Rack City in Hialeah. 305-424-8547. That's 305-424-8547. Pallet Rack City is the company you need when you want your warehouse sporting the finest racks in the business. After all, who doesn't love a great rack? Pallet Rack City. 305-424-8547. That's 305-424-8547.